I am hereby calling to order the regular San Fernando City Council meeting. We will begin with roll call. Ms. Fritz.
Councilmember Mendoza,
Present.
Councilmember Gonzalez,
Present.
Councilmember Ballin,
Present.
Vice Mayor Pacheco,
Present.
Mayor Fajardo.
I am here. We do have a quorum. If we will all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Please place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I will move to approve the agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mendoza. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Mendoza,
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez,
Yes.
Councilmember Ballin,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Pacheco,
Yes.
Mayor Fajardo.
Yes, the motion carries. We have decorum and order printed in the agenda. And at this time, before we go to public statements, I will state that following public statements, we will have presentations A and presentations B. And then I have been asked by staff to bring forward the item regarding murals. And Mr. Kimball, do you know off the top of your head which agenda item number this is?
Agenda item number 10.
There we go. So following the presentations of items A and B, we will go to item number 10. And at this time, I will temporarily step away as the Vice Mayor takes over, but I will still be present in the room. I will simply not have video feed. Vice Mayor,
Great. Yes, please.
if you would like to lead on the presentations. First presentation A.
I believe we have
Excuse me.
Okay.
questions first.
We have public statements that have been received for tonight's meeting. Okay, so I will,
Please.
thank you. I'll go ahead and read them. The first public statement tonight is from Joshua Seymour. Dear City Council, elected officials, etc. My name is Joshua Seymour. I'd like to let the City Council know that we should not pass Proposition 16 this November. Prop 16 is exactly what we saw on TV. The protesters on streets are protesting about inequality and injustice. Single out Asians to punish them for working hard, making the best out of life is simply evil. This country is a great land of opportunity for everyone. The people have said no to SCA 5 in 2014, and we need to say no again this November to stop this racist proposition becoming law. By Josh. The next speaker we have this evening is Mr. Arturo Garcia Mendoza. Good evening, Council, City staff, and community members watching live on YouTube or Facebook. My name is Arturo Garcia, and I represent Assemblywoman Luz Rivas in the city of San Fernando, Luz Rivas' office. Census outreach has been a priority for Assemblywoman Luz Rivas. We are making a final push to complete the 2020 census ahead of the September 30th deadline. There are multiple ways to respond. Visit my2020census.gov or call 844-330-2020 or return the questionnaire you received at home. Since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, Assemblywoman Luz Rivas has been working hard to keep our district updated and informed. With sweeping changes happening city and statewide, the Assemblywoman began hosting virtual town halls and teleconferences, where she has been able to provide our community with important and much needed information related to COVID-19. I am happy to announce that Assemblywoman Luz Rivas will be hosting a Women's Right to Vote Facebook Live Town Hall meeting tomorrow, September 22nd, from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. We are excited to have San Fernando City Council member Sylvia Ballin and Councilmember Mary Mendoza join our panel, and look forward to a robust dialogue on the topic. Lastly, our team has been working on EDD issues since March. Please don't hesitate to connect with our office for assistance with EDD or other state-related issues at 818-504-3911. Thank you for your time, Council, City staff, and community members. Kind regards, Assemblywoman in Luz Rivas' office, Arturo Garcia Mendoza. And those are 2 written statements we have received. As you know, we have opened up the phones until 6:15. It is past 6:15 and we have not received any phone calls.
Okay, thank you. I believe that brings us to the Education Commission presentations. Is that right?
Yes, it is correct.
Excellent.
And
Okay,
we're
do we
just-
have somebody?
Yes,
Go
we're
ahead,
letting a few people in from the Education
Okay, great.
Commission and some of our honorees that we
Okay,
will be speaking on this issue. And then we also have a video to show City Council.
excellent. So viewers, just stand by as we get everybody that we need together on our presentation for the Education Commission.
So tonight, our first presentation is for the Education Commission Certificate of Recognition, Student of the Month, Carl Fortaleza, Academy of Scientific Exploration. Education Commissioner Nicole Moore is here for this.
Evening, City Council. Tonight, I'd like to actually present about someone who was nominated back in March at the beginning of the pandemic. And so I will be reading you a little bit about what the nominating teachers said about Carl Fortaleza. His teacher said, Carl is heavily into fashion and is well known on the CCLA campus for designing costumes, makeup, and outfits that are exceptionally extravagant and edgy. Sometimes he will have more than one outfit to change into at any given event. He also designs and decorates spaces for school events, which enhances the experience for all those in attendance. Carl has earned the respect and admiration of both peers and faculty through his fearless demonstration of confidence in who he is and in his creative artistic abilities. This is particularly impressive since many students in high school struggle to fit in and find their identity, but Carl has embraced and accepted who he is as an artist and a scholar. Interestingly enough, when we saw the category for this nomination as creative and artistic achievement, all nominators at the school involved separately thought of the same person, Carl. Carl also serves as a mentor to the underclassmen. He is the president of the student body and is also this year's salutatorian. So this is the nomination back from March that we are so excited to be back presenting to you now in September as our Student of the Month program. And I believe he is able to join us here this evening. So let's give it up for Carl.
all right, well done. Very excellent. There you are. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. Are we going to have him say some words or is he just tuning in to say hello? I don't think. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. Should we go on to our second presentation?
There's also a video too, if you have a minute for Julia to play the video.
Oh, yes, of course, the video. Why don't we do that? Okay, everyone, bear with us as we kick off our video for the Education Commission.
Hi, my name is
You have to share your screen, Julia. I'll be right there.
One moment, please.
Yeah, let's get a screen share and Okay, bear with us. So that the rest of us could see it too, Julia.
Yes, I'm working on it right now. Here we go. I got it.
There it is. Okay, here we go.
I nominated Mr. Foley because
Thank you so much.
everybody
This
goes.
is from Mr. Fuller.
Excuse me. We have 2 videos this evening, and that is, 1 second.
And I think we'll have some more speakers after the videos as well. So bear with us as we get our videos squared away here. Okay, looks like we're close. I like that intro. Bespoke. I like it. Now you can unmute, I think, Julia. You can unmute. Okay. Bear with us as we navigate these Zoom difficulties. We really want to recognize each student, so we're going to take the time to get this right. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. We do have a okay, yeah, there you go. Yeah, go ahead, hit that one right there. Press and hold all the way to the beginning. And then unmute yourself. And I think that should, there you go.
I'm not sure that is it. 1 moment, please.
So make that full screen, but go ahead and hit.
Promise it'll be worth the wait. Confident it will be.
While we're waiting, I'd like to say, Mr. Malcolm, I miss you. I miss seeing you at City Hall and coming in with your students. You're just so wonderful. I wish I was young enough to be one of your students. I know that, God, it would be such a wonderful gift and experience to have you as a teacher. And thank you so much. Thank you for your dedication and your love for and your passion for teaching and embracing the children in our community. It really means a lot. And when the students speak, I could see them just looking at you with just a lot of love. And it's like wonderful. I don't even know how you have that much love in your heart that you could just embrace all of these kids. I mean, there's so many. And I wish I could be more like you. You're just a wonderful man. Thank you so much, and a wonderful teacher and mentor. And you have always stepped forward with the Education Commission. You embrace whatever we bring to you, and you come to City Council. I miss City Council. I miss having the opportunity to see you beam and just feel that your heart just filled with joy and pride. So I always wanted to say that to you. So I'm gonna take advantage of it at this moment.
Very nice. Yeah, we do all miss taking a big group photo too. Oh, please, Mr. Foley, if you'd like to say something, please.
Oh, I just really
Hey.
appreciate your kind words. I really, really do. It's really easy when you work with such amazing kids. And like I know, for example, for Carl and I have been working together especially hard this past year, but he's been in ASB for 3 years, and so we get to work with our kids. We're lucky enough to get to work with these amazing kids, and it's really just like it's really just the best experience and its own reward. So even he and I were even texting each other, just making sure that we could both get into the meeting and just making each other laugh, which is just really, really great. So
Yeah.
I really appreciate the city of San Fernando because our kids work really hard, and a lot of times there's not a space for them to be recognized for the extraordinary things that they do. I was joking with Miss Jensen, who I know is here. There was a time, I want to say it was around our homecoming. And so the things that our school does is that we're in charge of the homecoming. And so it was late at night, so we had to take some of the kids home. And so I had to drop Carl home, and Carl's home, there was these huge cobwebs from the trees, and tall trees down to the ground. He not only decorated his house for Halloween, but it was just this immaculate site.
He went all out.
Yeah, and I was like, "Did you guys pay somebody to do this?" And he was like, "No, I did it." I was just I was just blown away. So he is so extraordinarily talented. So I'm really glad that you guys were able to recognize him. So
Yeah, well, I'm also interested in how you keep it fresh when you have Zoom meetings. You know what I mean? How do you wake up in the morning and think all right, I'm gonna dress well. How do you stay on that fashion tip is what I'm curious about
Okay,
when
so I'm just
everyone's
gonna run
Zooming.
this. If there isn't sound, then we'll stop it. Hello, everyone. So we're going to go ahead and try to play the video again. If there is sound, then there's no point in running the second one, and we'll go ahead and post it on our website. Apologize for the technical difficulties. Oh.
Come on, Julia, dance.
I am playing the video. I am. Oh my gosh. I am, look.
So stop pushing it. Now do it. Feature. Now select the video.
Yes.
Now do it.
All right, we're getting closer. Oh.
Okay. Well, I can't hear it now.
Right. You can see it.
But you can see it, but you can't hear it.
I mean, you could pause it for now. Watch it again.
The suggestion, if we can't get the video audio to work, would Carl be willing to just narrate over this and provide us with a little bit of insight? And we could restart it.
What do you think, Carl?
I'm okay with that.
All right, let's have you chime in, please. We're excited to hear from you. Thank you for joining us.
Well, I think all of these things that I created throughout the 4 years in high school was a lot due to the community that we have in ACE. And that's why I was able to create such like costs and be able to bring it to school is because of how much ASO is such a family.
The same
We
one?
welcome each other. And with that atmosphere, I'm able to really like show my talents.
You are a very talented young man. You are going to have great success in life.
Would you guys mind if I tried to, because I have the video for Carl, maybe I can try to play it since you guys have gave me the share screen ability.
That sounds good too. What's next for you? Where do you see yourself going from here?
I'm currently in CSUN right now, but I'm majoring in the sciences, but I plan on minoring in arts because it is my passion, and I want to juggle those two things because this is more of like an outlet as like a reliever, and my focus is on science.
And when it stops, just stop it.
That's very interesting. What kind of science do you enjoy?
See, I had no idea.
Well, coming from like a background of like medicine, my dad is a clinical laboratory scientist, so I've been really interested in that since I was really young. So I'm pursuing that line of work.
Very well. That's excellent. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, I mean, I think we might have to show your video another time, Carl. I hope you forgive us. You know, maybe we'll post it to our
Thank you.
Facebook and everybody can share it from there. Because we do have another presentation. I think was. You want to give it one more minute, maybe, Mr. Kimball, or should we just continue our presentation?
Excuse me, Mr. Malcolm offered to show it.
Oh,
So
that's
maybe
right.
maybe he can do it. There was a lot of effort and time that was involved in bringing them forward. So maybe Mr. Malcolm can do it. He's a very talented young man. I have faith in him.
Oh yeah, is it? Are we able to give him the share screen ability?
Yes, you guys did. Let me see if it will allow me to.
Yeah, maybe hit request and maybe it might pop up on Julia's
So
screen.
go ahead. You should be able to share your screen now.
Okay, give me one moment then.
Yeah, just make sure your screen obviously is, you know, prepared and ready to be shared with the public as soon as you hit the button.
And in the event it doesn't work, I could always play it on my desktop and then have it show on Zoom on my laptop.
Oh, here we go. I think excellent. Fingers crossed. Take it away.
It goes on and on and on. Remind me of everything. Yes, I'm in the zone. Dreaming about the things that we could be. That's a real me when I'm in the spot. Don't believe it, just watch. Is it too late now to say I need a wonder? Let me start that. I want you to be happier because I'm happy. Cause you make me feel alive because feel like a rock star. This is what you came for. It feels right. Someone 10 years older, but look what everyone crazy. I can forget you. I'm not blind and I'm just so
Thank you so much. Wow.
Well, that was way awesome. I'm so excited. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, your level of artistic talent is absolutely astounding. I wish I had an ounce of the talent that you demonstrated tonight. It is just really inspiring to see our youth and the many abilities they possess and the great things that you're going to continue to do in life. So thank you for coming here today. And Councilmember Mendoza, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I just wanted to congratulate him and thank you for sharing the work that he does and, to continue striving and for his goals. And we're happy that we're able to acknowledge him and recognize him here. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would just like to say thank you so much for acknowledging that. And I'll also get if it's okay to acknowledge Mr. Foley because he is a wonderful teacher. And I wouldn't be in this meeting or in this school if it wasn't for him or where I've come without his help along the way. So I would just like to thank him as well. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
That's kind of a perfect transition, actually.
Are you guys ready?
We're ready.
Okay. Mayor, council members, city staff, thank you for your time. Nicole, thank you for your leadership with the Student of the Month. Carl, thank you for your patience. Nobody plans for a pandemic, I can assure you that. And the transition is that we are here. We surprised earlier today, Mr. Foley, because before the pandemic, we had planned on creating Teacher Spotlight. We know what a difficult job it is to be a teacher, and we know what a challenge it can be without Zoom. So now we know one of the other additional talents that Mr. Foley has is apparently he's also a Zoom meeting expert. So we know who to call when we're having problems. When we envisioned Teacher Spotlight, we put it on hold because we were not meeting and because we really wanted to meet Carl, and we said, okay, this could go on forever. We really need to get going. And when we put out the call for Teacher Spotlight, we didn't get 1 or 2 applications. We got 20 responses from Mr. Foley out of a school that's less than 500. When Mr. Foley comes on, he can tell you, but it's less than 500 kids, and we got 20 responses. And if you know what it's like to get kids to do anything when you ask them to do anything, it can be a challenge. I want to let the students speak for themselves. So that's the video. But what struck the commission about Mr. Foley's Student of the Month applications were how detailed and how personal and how insightful they were. And that he came to every city council meeting. That's why you guys all know who he is, because he's come to every meeting to represent his kids. And that's after a full day of work. So the kids will use words like world changer, comforts me, motivator, cheerleader. He helps edit college essays, and he is not the English teacher. He nudges students to apply for college success programs like QuestBridge. And we all know how important those programs are for students in our community. We have joked that we would love to have Mr. Foley and Ms. Jensen do seminars on how to do Student of the Month so that we could get more applications. But at the same time, they're doing such a great job. We have a steady stream of kids coming from ACE, and we know there are other excellent candidates, but we know that we will always know about the excellent students that are coming from ACE. Earlier today, I ran over to present him with the certificate. We did the socially distanced picture with the masks and the whole bit, but I'm sure that will show up in the city manager's report. So I'm hoping this video goes through, because not only did we get 20 responses written, we have many responses with video. And I think this really sums up Mr. Foley's impact on students in our community. Juliet, I know the sound we heard before was for the first video, so I'm hoping that the video will be able to play.
There you go.
Hi, my name is Brianna Villasenor from the class of 2021, and I nominated Mr. Foley because he is a teacher that everybody goes to when they need their spirits to be lifted or when they just need help with something. He is always there for everyone and is the highlight of most people's days. He never stops working to make sure that all students at ACE feel like school is a safe place. No matter who you are, he will be there for you. He's the glue that holds our school together, and without him, I don't know where we would be. He is there every day to make sure that you are doing what is true to you and is always pushing you to be the best you. I'm glad to have gotten a chance to have Mr. Foley as a teacher and a mentor, and I would not want it any other way.
Making a video for Foley. Oh man, oh jeez, oh goober. Oh man, I wish I didn't. I had a busy weekend. It was stiffy still, but here I am, and here you are. I'm Alejandro Vargas III, class of 2019, and here I present my thanks to a Mr. Foley. You know who you are. And I nominated Mr. Foley. Why? Because it seems like he understood. Let me get a little more into that. Mr. Foley was a teacher who would always have the student in mind first. He had a bunch of time for you to turn in late work. He'd make sure to go to your desk, see what you were doing. You're slacking off a bit. It happens. He was sure to get on you for that. But it was never in a way that made you feel bad. He never made you feel bad when you messed up. He just made you feel like you had something a little more to do. Never like you were incapable of doing something. It was more just like you're capable of doing it, you just have to get there. And I think it was very important. It's really, really important. I don't think I would have gotten through econ without him like that. You know, I turn in stuff late all the time. I forget, especially. God, I'm terrible at memorizing. But, you know, it wasn't that bad. Mr. Foley is someone who is very easy to talk to. He's a friend. He's a teacher who has everyone's best interests in mind. He's juggling like 5 different things at once, but he'll make sure he'll get to you. And it's very well appreciated. And I hope he realizes how well appreciated this is and how well appreciated he is. Thank you, Mr. Foley. And congratulations.
Hi, good morning. My name is Javier Cardenas. I graduated from Academy of Scientific Exploration. I was part of the class of 2K18. And, well, I loved Mr. Foley a lot. He really helped me out with my classes just day to day. He'd be super friendly. He'd always be like, hey man, how's your day going? I'd be like, oh, it's going great. He's like, how you doing in this class? And I would be like, well, I'm doing like this. And he's like, well, have you tried doing this, this, and this? Actually try help me out. And he gave me some new study tactics. He was just really, overall, a pretty helpful person. But I appreciate him a lot for helping me out.
Hi, my name is Mahika Ahmed. I'm part of the class of 2021, and I nominated Mr. Foley because not only is he very understanding and just a great listener, but beyond being a great teacher, he's also a very important mentor that I feel like everyone needs in their lives. He teaches us what it means not just to be good students or great leaders, but what it means to be a good person. And beyond that, he's just such a great support system, and he's kind of like Yoda. You can go to him for advice and you can always count on him. Mr. Foley also has a funny sense of humor, so that definitely brightens up a classroom. So thank you, Mr. Foley, for making school such a safe haven for all us students.
Hi, my name is Angelina Duran. I am a senior, class of 2021, and I just wanted to speak a little bit about why I nominated Mr. Foley. So I met Mr. Foley my 10th grade year of high school, and he was my ASB advisor. And immediately I knew that he was going to be one of my favorite teachers because he works super hard to create this family environment among all of his students. We do community circle and bonding activities because he puts such an emphasis on creating a family and a place where a student can belong and feel like they have support. And not only that, he always makes it known that he is someone you can go to if you have an issue. I know that if I am struggling with my mental health, if I need a letter of recommendation, if I just want to go into his office and bug him for no apparent reason, I know that I can do that because he really makes it known that you can go to him no matter what. And he is one of the biggest support systems that I have in my life, not only at school, but in my life. And I know that I'm not the only student that feels this way because he truly, truly cares about each and every one of his students. He never neglects his students. Being a teacher isn't about the paycheck for him. It's about showing the students that he cares and helping the students succeed. And he works so hard. He does so much more than a regular teacher does. Last year, he was going to school to become a counselor. He was the ASB advisor. He was the government teacher. He volunteered at school dances. He came on the weekends for school events to help out with the students. That's not a requirement for a regular teacher, but he does it anyway because he cares. And you know that he cares because you don't put in extra time like that if you don't care. And he's just such an inspiration because you see how hard he works, and sometimes he looks so tired, but he still keeps working. And it's because of that I always push myself because I want to make him proud and I want to help him out. And I know that I'm not the only student that feels this way because he just means so much and he does so much for everyone, not just myself, for everyone. And he truly, truly deserves this award. There's no one I can think of that deserves it more. And sorry, there's just so much that I want to say in so little time, but he's just truly an amazing person, an amazing teacher, and I don't think that any words I can say will ever truly do him justice, but I hope that these little explanations can just show you how much of an amazing person he truly is. So thank you so much for honoring him, and thank you, Mr. Foley, for always being there.
Hello, my name is Catherine Montoya and I'm part of the class of 2020, and I wanted to share some of the reasons of why I nominated Mr. Foley for this award. Actually, there's many, but I want to start by saying that personally, ever since I met Foley back in freshman year, he's been a mentor to me. He's been my role model. He's been someone that I knew that I could go to whenever I needed it, and not only for academics, but just for a piece of advice for life in general. And I know I would be speaking for a lot of people by saying that he's someone that is always there, willing to give out a hand to help out the community as a whole. And I know that Mr. Foley really deserves this award, and I am proud of it. And I will always look up to him, and I know that I wouldn't be where I am right now if it wasn't for him and just for his friendship and for his mentorship and just the amazing person that he is as a whole. So congratulations, Mr. Foley, you deserve this.
Hello, I'm Ms. Jensen, the principal of the Academy of Scientific Exploration. And what can I say about Foley that has not already been said? He is amazing. He does work really, 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 really hard. and he makes great connections with our students and honestly works really hard to make them better people and to help them see in themselves what they don't yet see. And so I really do appreciate that about him. And I also appreciate that he goes along with my crazy ideas. Thank you, Mr. Foley. And that he's just overall supportive, not only of the students, but of the staff as well. So he really is very deserving of this award, and I'm glad that we could surprise him in this way by spotlighting him and just getting a chance to say thank you for all that you do. Thanks, Ms. Foley.
Okay, does somebody have Kleenex? I have nothing left to say. I'm hoping that Mr. Foley is still there. Maybe he's grabbing Kleenex, but I would love to hear Mr. Foley speak.
Okay, let me turn my my light
There
on.
he is.
It's like really dark in here, I guess. Hold on. Okay, so I managed to keep it together. I really, really appreciate that. Wow, that was so. Okay, thank you so much to the committee. Thank you to Ms. Jensen and to all the students that sent in the video. Because I'm really overwhelmed, and I did not see it coming. Usually I'm like, hey, what's going on? And then I run away. But it's really great to I'm just really grateful that you guys take the time to recognize me. I really do appreciate it. And again, I really do thank you guys, City of San Fernando, because there's so many extraordinary people that live in our community that live like right next door to us. And the fact that the council, I know you guys are like crazy busy, especially right now with the pandemic. I'm sure that you guys have loads of stuff to do. So that the fact that you guys take time to recognize members of your community, I really do appreciate it. And I thank you guys so much. And it really means the world to me that you guys would honor me and honor my students and my school and other people in the community in the way that you guys do, because I know I've gone to other meetings and you guys have honored other people as well. And it really means a lot that you guys take the time to recognize us and to put feelers out into the community to find out who's doing these things, because that's not easy either, and it takes a lot of energy. And the educational committee, I really appreciate all the work that you guys do. I know that you guys are always in the nominating people, and I really want to just make sure that you guys get the recognition, because education is so important, and it's such a huge lifeline for our kids. And when you guys do things like this, you guys really support the other back end, which is that social emotional support, just knowing that we have a community that cares about our students and cares about the welfare of its community members. Thank you guys. Thank you. And also thank you to my boss, Miss Jensen, who is like my ultimate tag team partner, because when we're doing all those recommendations, like she's right there next to me and she's like, all right, who we nominating? All right, we're putting this in. So she works just as hard. And I know, like, for her and also Dana Neal, we all kind of started this school together. So I just really appreciate it. Thank you. Oh, and hi, Mom.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. I think, not enough can be said about the importance of education, especially now more than ever, trying to figure out a way to make it work during a pandemic is also especially hard. So good luck to you and everybody there. Mr. Mayor, are you back on? Do you want to take the lead again, or am I still filling in here?
I'll take the lead. Well, thank you so much for
Okay,
that
there you
wonderful
are.
presentation. It's an honor having you here. And having said that, are there any other comments from the council before we move on? Seeing, oh yes, Councilmember Mendoza, you may.
Yeah, I'd just like to congratulate Mr. Foley and for his hard work and all the endeavors that he puts into his students. It's apparent that he's a motivator. He encourages. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yes. He's a motivator. He's a friend. He's the go-to person. And so I really, it's all evident in everything a student said. And congratulations, keep doing what you're doing. And we need more teachers like you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Once again, thank you for your time. And that concludes our presentations. At this time, we will be moving on to the next part of our agenda. And anyone who is here to present may continue to view on YouTube Live. And we will be bringing on a new presenter shortly for item number 10. However, before we go to item number 10, I would like us to pass the consent calendar. I would like to remove item number 3 for discussion. Are there any other items to remove from the consent calendar, Councilmember Mendoza?
Yes, I'd like to, item number 10.
Oh, item number 10 is not on consent. We're on the consent calendar.
Oh,
If there were any items you wanted to remove from the consent calendar.
No, that's all.
Yeah.
Councilmember Pacheco?
Yes, can I pull the Lane Park item and the Measure A item? I don't know what numbers they are, but.
Well, the Measure A is
8.
8, and then Lane Park is
4.
4?
4. Yeah, so
Okay,
4
so
and 8,
that-
please.
One second. So
Thank
that's
you.
4, 8, and 3. And Councilmember Gonzalez?
Asked for 4.
Oh, 4. Okay. Therefore, I will move to approve the consent calendar with the removal of items 3, 4, and 8 for discussion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mendoza. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Mendoza,
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez,
Yes.
Councilmember Ballin,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Pacheco,
Yes.
Mayor Fajardo.
Yes, the motion carries. Before we get on to any, before we go to any other of these items, though, Mr. Kimball has advised me before the meeting that we did have someone here to present for item number 10. Therefore, I would like to pass the reins to Mr. Kimball to do an introduction and to lead us on this item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I apologize for the various technical difficulties earlier. We ended up trudging through and learned a few things along the way, so that shouldn't happen again. With regards to item 10, so this is the review and discussion of a temporary mural pilot program that was discussed very cursory at our last meeting, and it was directed to the new mural ad hoc committee, which met, and we have Mr. Lalo Garcia, who is a local artist that's joining us. But just to kind of set the stage real quick, on the early beginning part of last week, last Monday, the mural ad hoc met with Mr. Garcia, and Mr. Garcia represents some artists that have a vision, and I'll let him explain that to City Council. But one of the recommendations that's coming out of the mural ad hoc is to look at establishing a pilot temporary mural program in the area of the Metro right-of-way, where the murals, temporary murals, would be painted on pieces of plywood and mounted to the wall to kind of give the wall along the Metro right-of-way on the other side of parking lot 6N, beautify that a bit and have some temporary art installations there. So I think I'd actually probably want to turn it over to the ad hoc, which is Councilmember Ballin and Councilmember Gonzalez, to see if they had anything to add. And then also, as we mentioned, Mr. Lalo Garcia is joining us, and I think maybe he can give us sort of an overview of what his proposal was to the city, to City Council, and Council can consider the potential pilot program. So either the ad hoc, if you want to jump in first, or if you would like to reserve comments for the end, then we'll have Mr.
I would, if Councilmember Gonzalez doesn't mind, I would prefer Lalo to speak, and maybe Lalo, we'd like to see you. Could you click on your camera and we could see you?
Feli, what I do this? You can hear me, but you can't.
We can hear you, but we want to see you too.
They can't see me. So let me see. I have my assistant next to me.
Very nice.
No, nothing. Well, I don't I don't know. There's not very beautiful picture to see on me. I can probably just speak.
Okay, go ahead, Lalo.
Well, there she goes.
There you are.
Yeah,
yes. Yeah. Okay.
Well, again, thank you again for the invitation to your meeting. As I mentioned to you previously on the other meeting, Sonia Fey and myself are spearheading a mural campaign, hopefully throughout the U.S., voicing out the concern that we have on children that are being held in we don't want to say cages, but detention centers. As I was saying, because of all this Black Lives Matter and everything that is going on at this point in our country, they somehow have been left off without a voice. And so we wanted to create this campaign to on behalf of the children, to voice out for them. And so we've been reaching out to artists throughout the country, and actually the list has grown tremendously. And the only problem that we are having is basically getting spaces where we can paint murals, temporary murals, on their behalf. And this is the reason that I was reaching out to the city. Most, or I might say, all the social work that I've done since 1979, I've done in the city of San Fernando. So I consider myself a Fernandeño as well. I basically done 2 public murals, which were done in the city. Las Palmas, the mural at Las Palmas, which is still standing, and one that was taken down at the end. It was at the corner of Celis and Kalisher that dealt with the life of Cesar Chavez. I've done many things for the city. And as I said before, I very much would love if to have the city get involved in this project of the murals, be a part of this movement that we have. And reason why I was just reaching out to everyone at this point.
Okay, Robert, would you like to? You've been so engaged and involved with murals, Robert. I think that would be good to hear your voice.
Yes, thank you so much, and thank you so much for your service. Very familiar with your work there at Las Palmas, as I grew up in that park. I walk that park constantly, and we're always definitely looking at the mural and other work of arts that you've done. I think it's vital that we continue to showcase artwork. It just does such amazing things for the community. It sends a feeling of pride. It sends a feeling of culture. It can also help in economic development. there's just so many things, especially if you have like this type of pilot program like this, where you can have murals stretched out along a walking path. You can actually create functions where individuals can go and walk from mural to mural and curate and create a type of culture that embraces this art and also walkability in the city. So I'm so eager to be able to move on this, and especially with somebody that has such history here in the city of San Fernando. I'm extremely excited for this pilot program. So thank you so much for not only wanting to do this, but reaching out to the council member. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Lalo, I'm very excited about this opportunity, and if you wouldn't mind sharing with the council members as well as with our residents listening in, how long do you think the project would take? The city manager will be able to give us some details about specifically where it's going to be, and I think he said it's a 4x8 board that you will be painting on, but give us a little bit more detail. And do you have any idea your concept of what you're going to
the concept? Yeah, the concept is definitely portraying the children. This based on the space. Once I would have an idea of what it looks like, I would move on to creating an illustration that I can show you. As I mentioned before, if I would prefer something at ground level. One of my ideas is to put a chain link fence in front of it so that I can convey the message more directly, specifically since the area that we are talking about, most of the people will view it from the Metrolink. So it needs to be very direct. It needs to be simple, that people can have the idea and catch the message as they go through. That's one of the ideas that I have. But based on the space in murals, the space always dictates the approach and how we lay it out. At this point, 4x8s, those I would create in my studio and then basically install them. I can help design the space where they're going to be, so they would be secure. I have the manpower to do that. So the city would not, it wouldn't cost any cent to the city. Again, I'm not asking for any funds. Most artists are providing that. Things have developed where I think we're trying to create a GoFundMe for some artists that don't have the monies for materials, but that's on our end. So basically, we're just asking for the different cities, to provide us with a space, and that way is the way that we would approach it. So doing it in studio, I don't see any longer than a couple of weeks once I would have the illustration done. But the concept is not going to change. This is the concept for every artist in every city, that we need to portray the children, and it's up to us how or what out of the things that are going on in those facilities that we would approach it in the message that we want to create.
Thank you. And Nick, so do you have more to add, Nick?
Yeah, I guess just before, getting feedback from City Council on potential support for a pilot program, just some of the recommendations that came out of the ad hoc committee we had a number of areas that we kind of discussed, the logistics of a temporary mural program. The first would be identify a canvas in a location. So as we kind of discussed, we would be, the recommendation is to use sort of a 4x8 piece of plywood, and on, the mural would be on one side of it, and the back side, we'd probably paint it black or something so that it muted out, it was muted on the back side. A budget, again, I think as Mr. Garcia explained, it would really be minimal here. The only thing that we would be talking about on the city's end would be potentially a little bit of staff time to create braces on the wrought iron fencing that's along on the other side of parking lot 6N. We've already had our facilities manager just take a quick look at it, and it seems like it'd be he thinks it'd be a really easy installation to create something that the plywood or the temporary mural would affix to. The duration of the installation, I think what staff recommends is about a 6 month, 6 months from the date of installation would be the duration. In that time period, again, if we receive this direction from City Council, staff would actually start looking at formal program guidelines, similar to what we have talked about before on murals on both private property and potentially the women's right to vote mural, where if there were artists interested in submitting ideas for this program, that would be, we would come up with guidelines and have, potentially recommend having that go through the Parks and Wellness Commission. Again, tonight we don't have to, if it's the desire of council to look at a temporary art mural installation program, we don't need to get into any of those details tonight. We'll just get that direction and bring back that pilot program. We'll bring back some of those recommendations for consideration by the council at a future date, most likely during the pilot period, that 6 month pilot period, while the proposed mural were up on the right of way. And then maintenance in ownership, we would just have to kind of come up with a kind of a standard agreement to have with any artist. Again, that would all be kind of worked out through this pilot program if we're directed to move forward. So really what we're looking for tonight is direction from City Council on whether or not to move forward, with this, the proposed temporary mural along the Maestro right of way on the city's property on 6N. Again, it could be, and then we would have Mr. Garcia come back, with a sketch for review and approval. So if that's the first part of the direction, and the second part of the direction is whether or not council wants staff to develop an ongoing program during this pilot phase, that we would then come back to staff in a few months, to City Council in a few months with a more permanent program that would last beyond this initial pilot. So those are the two pieces of direction that City Council, that the staff is seeking direction from City Council tonight.
Okay, well, Mayor, you heard from the two ad hoc committee members. Do you want to ask if there's any questions from the other council members and your comments? Are you there?
Joe, Mary, I apologize. I
Yeah.
was wondering why you were asking Mary Mendoza, but I just figured it was
I said Mayor.
courtesy.
Mayor.
I heard Mary. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, having said that, first of all, Mr. Garcia, thank you so much for coming to our Zoom meeting today. It is wonderful to have you here. You're an inspiration to the community. And from what it sounds like, you will be even more of an inspiration through hopefully additional artwork that is to come the city's way. So I am, very much thankful and honored to have you here with us today. But I would also like two of my colleagues to have an opportunity to chime in as well, beginning first with Councilwoman Mary Mendoza, not Mayor Mendoza, and then followed by the Vice Mayor Hector Pacheco.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia, for reaching out to our city and for offering to put up one of your murals. And it's an honor to have you be a part of this community and leave your mark here. I support the pilot project, and I support us moving forward with the mural program that we're planning for. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor.
Yes, thank you so much for your work in the community. I think it's so on point with what we heard earlier. Sometimes it's also about inspiring the next generation and showing how there are so many ways to leave an impact on others. So I'm excited to see what we have coming up and look forward to working with you and really having a fruitful partnership on behalf of the community. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm thinking that Mr. Councilmember Gonzalez would like to make the motion.
Yes, I will like to make the motion to what per staff or hold on, let me pull it. I moved my to go ahead and approve or move forward with
Item 10?
yes, item 10, sorry, and the
Happens.
pilot program.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please, Ms. Fritz.
Councilmember Mendoza,
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez,
Yes.
Councilmember Ballin,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Pacheco,
Yes.
Mayor Fajardo.
Yes. The motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Garcia. We really appreciate your time here.
That means you're going to do the pilot program for us. You're going to be the first artist, and we're looking forward to it.
And anything else I can assist in with future artists, I'd be more than happy to assist in any way that I can.
Thank you, Lalo. And I know that Nick will be in touch with
Yes.
you.
Thank you.
Be in touch shortly.
Thank you all. Thank you all.
Thank you. All right. Well, we are now, having completed item number 10, we are now going back on the agenda to items that were pulled from the consent, beginning with item number 3. And the reason I pulled this item is that a few weeks back, a community member had recommended to me a bridge between what was initially envisioned for the Measure A committee versus the new format that we had as a exclusively as a town hall meeting. And I gave this some thought, and I thought that it seemed to be a pretty good compromise. It struck me as a very good middle ground. And what was suggested to me was that we actually establish an ad hoc committee, which would consist of 2 council members, a member of labor, a member of the business community, and an at-large member. And I feel that this would be successful because I can't imagine that 2 council members would ever try to take this feedback as being the entire voice of the community. It is simply a dedicated group of people who are willing to study the issues. And to be quite honest, it almost reminds me of what Councilmember Gonzalez and I did with respect to studying the pension issues. I think that even though staff had recommended at the last, or sorry, 2 or 3 meetings ago, that we dissolve the pension ad hoc, I still feel that there is plenty of work to do, plenty of supervision, and plenty of oversight until all of those outstanding liabilities are 100% paid for. And so I am bringing this item forward to see if the city council is open to establishing an ad hoc committee for oversight of our additional tax revenues, whether it is the Measure A funds or whether it is Measure A and Measure SF funds. And so having spoken, I would like to go to the council to hear my colleagues' feedback. Councilmember Ballin?
Could you call on me in just a few minutes? I have to run for a minute.
No problem. Councilmember Gonzalez?
Yeah, sorry. So you said number 8 we're talking about right now.
3.
Correct? 3?
3.
And just to, I'm sorry, just to clarify, so the city clerk sent out a supplement on item 3 earlier.
Yeah,
The
that's
one
why I was like, hold on.
Yeah, the one that you're in the printed agenda is wrong. So in your email, there's a supplemental that has, it's basically the discussion of the ad hoc, approval of the ad hoc committees, the updated list.
Yeah.
I have to pull that up too.
Yeah, so if you can actually go to somebody else, because I definitely got confused right now. I did see that email about the restructure, sorry.
And that was pursuant to our previous meeting to change some of the committees that had been previously changed. Councilmember Mendoza, you're on mute.
I think I'd like to wait on this and think about it because I haven't had a chance to read the item and everything in detail and really think about it and you know, feel I don't want to make a hasty decision. I want to make a well-informed decision. So for me, I prefer to wait on this one.
Well, these funds are just, I mean, very, very important. And so I think we all recognize that the community takes them very seriously. I mean, it's a special tax that we passed, very specific to the financial crisis that we were in. We have another tax measure on the ballot as well. I mean, I think these are issues that the community is very concerned about. I think it makes sense to continue to find outreach opportunities. In theory, I think it would be a great idea. I don't know how we would go about selecting the non-council member participants. I guess when you have your remarks, you can kind of shed some light on what you envision as how the group would come together, so to speak. But more so, I think that I as well believe that it's not a timely endeavor for the city council to go on like 40 days before an election. We have one retiring council member. We have a couple others up for re-election. I think like we're so close to it now. I mean, we might as well wait until we figure out who's on the next city council to really hunker down on more committee assignments, so to speak. But as far as, you know, the timing, I feel like that's kind of an issue for me. But more so what I mentioned earlier, Mr. Mayor, if you want to maybe add some color on how this, I guess, group would come together or what they would meet about. And you know, I understand like it's Measure A related, but I guess what the takeaways would be and all that. I guess, is it just like comments that are reserved for you know, city council when they make their comments at the end of the meeting, or maybe just, yeah, just speak a little bit on what you envision, if you don't mind.
It would be a group that is dedicated to studying the use of the additional tax revenues we receive, similar to how, or not necessarily similar, but at least parallel in that regard to how the previous Measure A Oversight Committee had been discussed. Now, the reason that this makes sense for me is that to a degree, Councilmember Gonzalez and I have done something similar, but again, it hasn't really been focused on the entire budget. It's been more so nuanced in the sense that it's focused on pension and OPEB obligations. I see this as a natural expansion of that. I still see this as keeping in line with the intent of what many community members wanted. I think that we would still keep the transparency town halls. I think that that is probably one of the more popular components, and justifiably so, because everyone wants to have an equal voice. But this was simply a recommendation given to me that I slept on, I thought on, and I thought ended up being quite good. Now, as far as how the selection would go, I don't necessarily have that completely vetted, but at least for the at-large member of the community, I would like it to be one of the community residents who applied previously for that position. We can even do the same potentially with the labor position or with the business position, but knowing that there might be some retirements in the city and there have been changes in positions, I'm not really sure how that would necessarily work out. But I think that solving that part of the equation is pretty easy if the council determines that there is a will to try and bring back a more nuanced and detailed oversight committee, in addition to the broader and more encompassing town style transparency committee.
So let's say, for instance, Mr. Gonzalez and I serve on the Green Trees Committee. And we are interested in how the community wants trees planted. So we individually take meetings and meet with community members and so forth. We also receive information from you know, whatever, whether it's staff or people that present, etc. But this committee, you would have one designated person serving alongside these council members, or I don't understand necessarily why it's like a certain designee from, like, let's say, the business community, when probably the ad hoc committee members would probably want to meet as many business members as possible, right? I mean, I guess I'm just trying to see what the figurehead would be.
And I don't think that having one official business representative on the ad hoc committee would preclude them from reaching out to other businesses too.
Right.
And so for me, I saw this as an opportunity to bridge differences. Again, I still love the way that we broaden the scope by including more people. But if there is a desire still to have a group that is more narrowly focused, I can support that and do support that to try and bridge differences.
And would the designees, the non-council member designees, be chosen by the ad hoc committee or by the greater city council?
It would be by the city council as a whole.
Interesting. Okay. I mean, yeah, I think we can put a pin in me for now and maybe get to some of the other council members. I still would like to deliberate a bit.
I understand. And I hadn't brought this forward as a separate agenda item, but I saw that it fit in nicely with the topic we had today. And it's something that I had been mulling over. And so I decided somewhat last minute to incorporate this dialogue as part of this discussion of ad hocs. Going back to Council Member Gonzalez, followed by Council Member Ballin.
Thank you. I think this item definitely has to come back for further review, and I think more input, because obviously I've been very vocal about being supportive of a type of oversight committee made up of business owners, residents, and even labor. So I would definitely be interested in doing something like this. So I just think it should come back as a agenda item in the future, so we can have it more thoroughly vetted, what the makeup would be, possible makeup, possible way to pick it, kind of like what we did before. And then also, if we're going to be doing this, wouldn't this then become a standing committee and not a ad hoc committee? So then it would have to have Brown Act incorporated, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct? Say, Richard?
That is correct. If it's of unlimited duration and is essentially an ongoing committee, it would be a standing committee and would then have to comply with the requirements of the Brown Act, which includes noticing of agendas and being open to the public.
And is that just by virtue of the duration, or is it by virtue of the number of people on it?
So the characteristics of a true ad hoc committee are that it would be of limited duration, or that it would only meet some sort of a sporadic, inconsistent, only as needed sort of way. But if you're essentially creating a committee that is intended to be of an indefinite term, will just be ongoing, and if it is intended to, basically be part of the regular evaluation budgeting process of the city, then essentially it becomes a standing committee and would then unfortunately have to comply with the requirements of the Brown Act.
And when you say an indefinite duration, obviously if we were to say 10 years, that is a definite number, but is it so far out that it is considered an equivalent of an
yeah, I think that would be a little, probably maybe pushing it a bit. I mean,
I understand. I just wanted to understand the nuances a little bit better. Well, it does seem to me that there's at least a desire to have this discussion further. And so I will bring this back at the next meeting for us to discuss. And if Councilmember Ballin wanted to add anything, she can. If not, then I will simply move this item and bring the recommendation back at the next meeting. I do not see her chiming in on Zoom, therefore, I will approve item number 3 as presented by staff. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Gonzalez. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Mendoza,
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez,
Yes.
Councilmember Ballin, she's currently absent from this vote. Vice Mayor Pacheco,
Yes.
Mayor Fajardo.
Yes, the motion carries. We have concluded item number 3. We have now moved on to item number 4. And this is, as I pull up my agenda, consideration to authorize release of a notice inviting bids for the design of the Lane Park Revitalization Program. I think that Councilmember Gonzalez said that he pulled this, and I thought that Councilmember Pacheco did as well. But Councilmember Gonzalez, if you would like to lead, and then followed by by Vice Mayor Pacheco.
Thank you so much. So on going into this, I just wanted to make sure that our comments were read in first, because the way this is it's obviously it's going out to bid for a company to bid on the design and concept and possible construction in the future for this park. But there's a little bit of feedback that I wanted to incorporate into the design to make sure that it was read into there. Let me pull this up. So in the actual report, it states a couple of the issues that we're looking at doing. So it's just so all the public knows. At Lane Park, it's looking at adding park amenities to and improvements to Lane Park, which consist of the following: construction of a restroom building powered by solar panels, construction of a basketball court with lighting, construction of artificial turf soccer field with lighting, new landscaping and irrigation improvements, tree removal / replacement if needed, smart irrigation with ground sensors, bioswales, and planting of non-invasive and drought-tolerant trees and shrubs, conforming existing and new lighting to lighting emitted diodes or LEDs technology, preferably solar powered, adding fencing along alleyways, renovating the playground for ADA accessibility, and adding shading, installing shading for exercise picnic tables, and installing drinking fountains. So, and part of that, I just wanted to make sure that I wanted to see if we can make it clearer when we say add fencing along the alley, right? Or the alleys, because it's actually the way Lane Park is. There's an alley in the backside and in the front side. So on the front side, if we can do some type of wrought iron, I guess, and with a gate, because kids do actually run out of the park into the alley. And then on the backside where you have all the commercial area, I would propose, if the city council or they look at doing like a brick wall and possibly attach to it something like Boston ivy or a creeping fig, something like that, so it stays green and it's not just a block wall that can create graffiti. But also part of that is, if we're looking at this art program, that block wall can also have the attachment, so we can have murals placed in that park as well. And the reason I say that is because my son, when he participated in, was it the tot football or tot soccer? I forgot what it's called. Futsal, I think it was. I don't remember.
Soccer.
What was it?
Kids love soccer.
Kids love soccer. Actually, you could keep talking. We have the background of the park right there for you.
Yeah.
So actually right there along the fence on the one side where all the factories are, we would actually sit there to watch our kids play soccer, but the fumes were overwhelming from the paint shops that were right on the other side of that fence. And so the parents would actually have to move their chairs and not sit there, because you would sit there and be smelling all the fumes from the paint shop. So I think if we try to eliminate that by maybe doing a block wall with some vegetation on it, so it's not, so it's more appealing, I think that's something we should look at, or even have the company come up with different solutions to try to mitigate that from happening. Because if we're definitely looking at activating that park, creating soccer fields, creating these basketball courts, and then I think we should try to mitigate that from happening in the future. And then when it comes to drinking fountains, I know that we should definitely try to look at the hydration stations which have the bottle fill as well. I know that's not, directly in this, but I think that we should definitely look at that. And then also, my expertise in working with this, unfortunately, a lot of these hydration stations wind up leaking. So maybe even look at making sure that we have good sewer lines around there, or even French drains around, so it can percolate back into our groundwater system as well, is something that we can look at. But I just wanted to make sure that those comments were read in, so hopefully they can be taken into consideration when this actually does go out for build and design. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Pacheco?
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. We are very excited about this project. I know the City Council is very keen on beautifying our city. And so the viewers and residents out there watching, this is a tangible win for the city of San Fernando, especially as familiar like we all are with our city finances. It is like pulling teeth to be able to invest our community sometimes. And so this comes as a very welcome blessing in a time where it doesn't seem that there are many blessings to be had. And so I just do want to make a few comments about Lane Park. I live very close to it. I have for a majority of my time here in San Fernando. And I think the community is really going to embrace these changes. I think, like you said, people love soccer, and having that access is going to be pretty fantastic. But we are also doing this the smart way. And I think that is something that can't be emphasized enough. We really are going to have the opportunity to make irrigation and the water retention and watershed a very big priority because it really is. And so I'm very excited about those improvements. It's also going to be exciting to start collecting data because having these types of instruments and measurements and seeing how Parks and Rec can be managed for the years to come is going to be a welcome opportunity. And so I personally spend a lot of time ahead of these parks announcements in our master plan update that we had in November of 2017. And I always try to read it closely because there's a lot of great information about what San Fernando needs and what about the city that our residents are really looking for. And beyond just more acreage, I think it's very clear in our report that San Fernando is below average on park acreage for our people, and so besides acquiring more park acreage, this is kind of like the next best thing, is just improving what we have. I think not enough can be said about what we need to do in a lot of our other parks as well. And I like what Mr. Gonzalez said about really trying to incorporate now our new mural ad hoc. I think that could be interesting tie-in, very timely as well. I also care about the type of company that we're going to be doing business with. I believe that it's important for us to engage with a company that takes conservation and water conservation and park enjoyability very seriously. I think I really hope and I really expect that we have a competitive bid process, and I really encourage our staff and our city council to really be picky about who we are going to partner with on this. It's great news right now, and it's not going to be easy. It's going to be a lot of hard work, and I know Julian, you are fully aware of that too. It's going to be a lot hard work. Could you comment, Julian, on maybe the last time the city of San Fernando has made a 1 million plus expenditure into a park in terms of like renovation and what that was like from a like workload perspective and everything for the community in that way?
Sure. The last major renovation was done to Las Palmas Park in 2004. And then also the regional park. And before I got here, that was, I would say 2011, 2013, around there with the major renovation. And yes, it is very tedious work because there's a lot of revisions if the vision is not explained fully at the beginning. If you don't have a great vision and you don't tell the contractor or whoever is bidding on the job exactly what you want, then there is a delay. There is cost overruns because things change. Getting input right now at the beginning is very important. That way, what I would have to do for this one is just go back to the state and revise our scope of work to include the additions that Councilmember Gonzalez just mentioned. And that's not a big process, but it's done beforehand prior to the actual construction of the park. But it is, you just got to stay on top of it, making sure that your companies are doing what you ask them to do. And if need be, we'll hire a contract monitor or contract company that would monitor the whole construction process if we were supposed to do it.
That was going to kind of be my second question. Can you just be honest with us? What is your bandwidth like right now on working on a project like this? I mean, I was looking through and it's saying, monthly status reports and this and that, how is your workload in terms of San Fernando parks, and what is this kind of as a sizable project mean for you in the department?
Right now, it is our workload has been shifted to a lot of online activities and programs to engage the community. So we do have when projects come up, we like this one come out, we divvy out the work. We have different when we meet, each staff will take care of the particulars of each project that comes up. We are, we don't have a big staff, but the staff that we do have on board are very dedicated professionals. They're very enthusiastic about their job. And when we get extra work, we take it and we run with it and do as much as we can. We have the luxury right now of not running physical programs because that takes a lot of time. A project like this is just like I mentioned earlier, as long as you have a good company that is going to be supportive of you, be supportive of the project, and knowing them what we want, what our vision is for that particular program, then it goes smoothly. If any issues come up, you have to have that communication with your contractor to make sure that if there's issues coming up, that they are voiced and there's a proper procedure to take care of them. Lane Park is a relatively small park. We are building 3 major amenities in the park, but it's not such a big park that it won't be able to complete it. Each amenity is a soccer field, a basketball court, a restroom. Those are 3 new amenities to the park that do not exist right now. The contractor, when it's selected, will know exactly what we want in the project, and then the contract monitor will make sure that the work is on time and taking place. And again, if there's any issues, we have a discussion to talk about what that particular problem may be and address it.
Okay. I'm just going to ask 2 more questions. One's going to be very simple, and the other is going to be a bit of a thought experiment for everybody. So at the outset, best case scenario, when do we start seeing improvements being put in Lane Park? I see this is going to October 22nd, asking for an October 22nd realistically, are we talking 18 months, 3 years? What do you think here?
Yes, we're talking about possibly completion of the project sometime in maybe September, November next year, if everything runs smoothly. We are going to, right now, we're going to bid on the design of the renovations, to select a company to provide design renderings and to give us an idea of what the project is going to look like based on what we're asking for the project, like the tennis, like the basketball court, the restaurant, and so forth. Once we get the design, we select a company, and that design process is going to take 2 to 3 months. With input coming back to City Council, we'll have the first meeting with the selected company will be staff. They will look at their design, see if there's any changes that need to be made, look at what particular material they're looking at or doing. The second one would come to City Council for their input, what they like to see in it, if there's any changes they see in the project that the contractor would have to make, the design company would have to make. And then the last one, with about 3 months out, would be the final, about 95% of the design already made with very minor changes that need to be made. And once the design is approved, then the next process would be to select the contractor to build the project. And that will take approximately anywhere from 8 to 12 months. No, not 12, 16 months, around there. It all depends on the availability of the contractor that's selected.
Okay. And my second question is this. How do we arrive at the improvements that we wrote on the grant in terms of like, how do we get to our $1.2 million number? And what did you leave off? What did you not include that doing all this work and all this construction in Lane Park, if we had the money, what could we add to this project if we were able to get someone, let's say hypothetically, we got someone else to pay for it? What did you leave off? What was at the margin there, if you will?
I think we were limited by space. That was the only limit we had at the park, was the space that the facility has. Looking at the space, what we could only put in is what we put in. There was nothing really more that we could put into the thing, into that space. So I think we are adding we're using as much space as there is available.
Got it.
Yeah, so we were only limited by space.
So you would say this is going to be a tapped out project, then it's on to the next park, basically.
Yes.
What you're gonna say. Okay, great. I will leave it there and hand it off to the rest of my colleagues.
Thank you, Councilmember Bellin.
I'm just wondering how you're going to handle the parking situation for Lane Park. I live on Huntington Street. That's where I took my grandkids to play and inhale a lot of those paint fumes. So how are you? There's no parking in that area.
That's correct. Just like our other facilities, anytime we have an event going on, sports programs occurring at a recreation park or Las Palmas, we have an issue with parking. Unfortunately, that is the situation we have at our facilities when we're programming. But to mitigate that parking issue, we will stagger events and programs to make sure that there is not everybody coming at the same time. We're not planning to make major events. We do host will be small community events that the park could handle. And the amenities are more for the real young ones. And because we are doing a soccer field, but it's not a big major field. It is a small Y8 field, meaning it's for 8-year-olds and under. And the same thing for our basketball program, that once we start there, it would be for the small ones, and we'll stagger all the events that we have so that we won't have everybody coming at one time.
How many parking spaces do we have? in that small parking lot?
We do not have no parking lot at Lane Park. It's only street parking.
And we have the businesses surrounding it, and they take up all the parking pretty much, plus the apartment building across the street and the what do you call it, duplexes and what have you. But anyway, that's a big concern of mine. The other is, what are we doing for the special needs community at that park?
We are including a ADA accessible play structure. That structure would be reconfigured to allow ADA accessibility for all ages and all abilities. And our program would be inclusive.
Okay, and this is something I really would like us to do at one point, especially now that every summer it seems to be hotter and hotter and hotter. And I think we just really need to consider a splash park, a splash pad. That would just be so exciting that I would like to see for the future consideration for our young children. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Councilmember Mendoza.
Thank you, council members, for all the input that you've provided, and Councilmember Gonzalez also for that, the wall regarding the paint. I wasn't aware of that, and the smell of that, the fumes going over to the park area. I do have a question for Nick regarding the parking. Is this, I know we're having the study on the parking within the city. Is this something that's being addressed? Mr. Kimball?
Yeah, I'll let Tim can talk a little about the parking study. I mean, in that area, absent of taking away park space and creating parking spots out of them, there's not a lot that can be done. Again, I think as Julian had mentioned, this is one of our smaller. This is a neighborhood serving park that is meant. We want to really increase walkability and make sure that the neighborhood, because it's a small park, try to get the neighborhood to walk to the park as opposed to drive to the park. That area is just, land is finite and parking is finite, and there's not, absent of building a parking structure, I'm not sure there's a whole lot that we could do to create new parking spaces. What I think the parking study will look at is just sort of how impacted it is, and it'll provide us data. I'm not sure what recommendations might come out of that, but Tim, if you have anything additional on the parking study in particular, be interested.
Thank you. It's good input for the consultant team. Really the whole city is being analyzed, but any comments on particular locations such as this one around Lane Park, that's a really valuable data point. So I'll provide that with the consultant team. In terms of what is going to come out of it, in terms of recommendations, possible solutions, I'm really interested to see myself. But certainly at that location, you've got a number of different factors. You've got just this mix of uses. You've got a park, while it's a neighborhood destination, not really, drawing from much larger than that. I mean, it's not the regional pool. It's not a commercial center. It is attracting folks as a neighborhood destination. And then you've got the confluence of commercial and industrial uses within vicinity. So yeah, there's a lot of things happening. Now, is it a solution that's going to address mainly what's happening on the residential component surrounding that neighborhood? Maybe. And so there will be solutions that are tailored more towards the residential aspect of it. Is it an issue where we find that it's employees or customers of commercial businesses or industrial businesses that are bleeding over to surrounding the park? That will have a different solution as well. So I probably the answer is a bit of all of the above. So we'll definitely provide that feedback to the consultant team and look out for recommendation specific to this location.
Thank you.
I have no additional questions.
Vice Mayor, you have an additional question or comment?
Yeah, one more thing, and I would like to move the item for approval as well. But I think that's something that we can think about in terms of parking and having a park that's accessible via car. I think we should maybe, and I won't go down this road too far because we want to stay germane and pertinent to the topic, but I think we should consider converting one of our parking lots into a park, and you could keep several spaces. So that could be something that we could tinker with someday. But otherwise, that'll conclude my my statement, and I would definitely like to move the item for approval.
You may, and incorporating council recommendations, correct?
Yes, of course. I mean, we can even go one round if you want another round if anyone wants to incorporate more. But yeah.
Councilmember Gonzalez has his hand up.
Councilmember.
Thank you. Yeah, I put my hand up because I know I've talked in the past about the Mesoamerican ball game, and they're looking to put a ball field in one of our parks. And I think it's a good opportunity for us to do it. We would be the first in California, I believe the second in the nation to be able to do it. But it does seem like this park is going to be built out according to the amenities that we're going to be inputting. But I just want to make sure that it's in the back of our minds for this project, if there is space available, if not for future projects. Because we are the first city that brought them back as well. So that's all that I wanted to add. Thank you.
Thank you. I will second the motion on the table. Roll call, please, Ms. Fritz.
Councilmember Mendoza. You're on mute, Ms.
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Yes.
Councilmember Ballin.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Pacheco.
Looking forward to planting a tree with everybody at Lane Park. Yes.
Mayor Fajardo.
Yes, the motion carries. We have concluded item number 4. We are now moving on to item number 8, which was
I just
pulled
wanted to say,
by.
I actually have a prior engagement. It's actually Celeste's birthday, and I just heard them sing happy birthday and I missed it. So I got to get to my family. I just wanted to make sure that I was here for these events or these items.
Are you leaving for the remainder of the meeting?
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
You too. Bye.
Good night.
We have concluded item number 4. We are now at item number 8. This was pulled by Vice Mayor Pacheco rather, and I did inadvertently close the agenda again. But Councilmember, if you would like to lead us on this item, or Vice Mayor rather.
Yeah, I would love for staff just to chime in a little bit on how they felt the forum went. I participated as a viewer and as a listener, and I think there are a lot of clear messages about Measure A. I think people want their streets paved, they want them clean, and they want them green. I see a lot of info in the report here about what we spent last year. So I would like for us to touch upon where this year's funds will be expended. I know that's something that's on everybody's mind. If you can, Nick, if we can go on the actual numbers, the 3.5 million number you have here, and then how our Measure A funds are going to be changing after all, post the COVID impact. It looks like they were pretty flat compared to last year. But if you can just add a little bit more color on what they're looking like coming in, what you made of the community feedback from the forum, where we are at, in terms of our surplus now. Ultimately, because of that community kind of response that I think we all know about our streets and so forth, I would like us to eventually maybe agendize or have a deeper look at the Public Works Department and see what it will take in terms of middle management personnel or boots on the ground, pothole busters like we've advocated before, as to making up some of the deferred maintenance that we have. Last year's presentation sticks in my mind very clearly that we have 50 million plus of deferred street maintenance. So those are a couple of points that I hope we can touch upon in terms of Measure A. Please let me know, if you need any more clarification.
Sure, I'm going to start. I'm going to pass it off to Finance Director Diego Ibanez to
Thank you.
go over real quick some of the surplus questions that you had and sort of where Measure A was last year, where we expect it to go this year. So, and then I will touch on just some of the, I guess, the overall policy guidance or feedback that staff got, and then some of the participation. So Diego, go ahead if you want to go over some of the financial stuff real quick.
Absolutely. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. As you know, we did have our virtual town hall meeting on the 21st of September. It went pretty well, and the report that I presented along with City Manager Kimbo and the rest of staff shows a preliminary estimate of what Measure A is bringing in that particular point. Our books are still open. We're still making certain adjustments. We're still making certain forecasts. For example, our COVID expenses and our grants, that's still sort of in the work. But in terms of Measure A, we did get an updated number, and I know that the report, again, it's just an estimate, and we will be presenting something in more detail in the second meeting in October, on October 19th. We will be coming back with more explanation of our budget, more explanation of Measure A, and as I ran a report right now, as Councilmember Pacheco was speaking, our number is actually currently a little higher than was in the report, just because of delayed forecast.
Love to hear that. That's good news.
Yes.
You guys say that with a smile on your face.
We are actually, so last year, we ended up the year at 2.498, and actually the report this evening is showing at 2.4, which is a delta about 32,000, which is a completely different number that's on the report. That report is not inaccurate. It's just a preliminary, as I mentioned. Again, we have delays in forecasting, we have delay in reporting. So we're getting that number in, and I'm happy to report that this evening, we're actually at 2.466. So it's a big jump from the number that's presented in the report. With that being said, it goes back to what Councilmember Pacheco was saying, how we're looking in terms of our budget. We need to remember that as we were planning our 2021 budget, it was in early March when the pandemic started, and City Manager Kimbo and the rest of the staff, we took a very conservative approach as to how we were going to plan the year. We are actually ending the year somewhat comfortable. We're getting a little excited, but I think in the back of our mind, we know that the big issue or the big impact will be in 2021. When we see the full impact of the last quarter of the fiscal year, when we start seeing, the slowdown in sales tax and everything sort of kind of coming into that place. So with that being
Could I ask you real quick on the last quarter of the year?
Yes.
Typically, non-COVID environment is the last quarter of the year. How does it compare to the others? Because, for instance, retail companies have their best year in the last quarter of the year because of Christmas, for instance. But city finances obviously are way different. How does the last quarter compare to the other quarters typically for the year?
We would have to take, it's comparing, again, we need to kind of take out the COVID expenses, Councilmember Pacheco.
Right.
And kind of see, but we're sort of in line. I don't want to commit to anything right now because everything is sort of still preliminary, but happy to have that discussion. But everything in terms of this quarter seems to be coming sort of online. That it was surprising to the finance department as to some of the conservative estimates that we made. But I think that we were very prudent in making those conservative estimates. I'd rather be under than promise something over. So we're quarter by quarter, we are in line. Again, we're pleasantly surprised with how we're ending out the year. Nice cushion, nice reserve, but we are sort of anticipating the avalanche or the big impact that's going to happen in this new fiscal year that we just entered.
Is there any indication, and we obviously really hope not, but what are the small business losses like? Is there any indication if we lost a bunch of small businesses? Are they still open? I mean, is there any indication about the environment for our small business right now?
That I couldn't be able to gauge. We do have a meeting with HDL who gives us that information later this month.
Okay.
And as soon as that becomes available, I'm happy to kind of share that back to council and give you sort of, what is happening in terms of our businesses, small businesses in the city.
And just to put a little bit of clarity, just for the viewers, when we say the last quarter of the year, we're on a fiscal year, not a calendar year. So for the last quarter of the year for the city is April, May, June. It's not October, November, December, which is the last quarter of the. So it's really set. Our last quarter of the year is second quarter of the private sector. And I think kind of just expanding a little on what Diego had said about knowing what our small business loss would be. I mean, a lot of the reasons that we have a 3 to 6 month lag in data that we get, especially on sales tax. And that's going to be sort of exacerbated by some of the relaxed reporting that the state has. So right now, actually, some businesses can defer their sales tax payments. So even if we're not receiving sales tax payments from certain businesses, that may not necessarily mean that they're out of business. They may just be deferring tax payments, or they just may
Could that also mean that the 2.4 number that Diego cited could actually be underreported because some people are deferring their sales tax revenue? So it could actually be even greater?
Potentially, potentially. And I think we'll have a better idea with regards to business closures probably in February of 2021, because that's when business license renewals are due. So if we start seeing a lot of these businesses, brick and mortars, not renewing their business license, I think that's when we'll have a better idea of who's actually looking, gonna made it through sort of the difficulties here.
Okay, great. And then, if you can go ahead and comment on the forum and
Sure.
where you see for this year's expenditures.
Yeah. So actually, I was very pleasantly surprised. Obviously, we weren't really we didn't know what to expect with having a virtual online town hall, but we ended up having approximately 30 active participants throughout that participated live in the town hall. There were 65 comments that were made to the video. And then we also have, since then, we posted it on our website. It's also available on the city's Facebook page. But there have been 283 views of that, town hall. So it seems to be relatively well received, which I think was, and we went the full hour, and we did get a lot of comments on street repair, a lot of comments on maintenance issues, and a lot of comments interested in economic development, especially in the downtown mall area. So I think those three sort of policy issues, and that's exactly, I think Vice Mayor, you had kind of noted those three areas. That's exactly the type of information why we have these town halls, because that's good information now. It's some data that the city council has going into the 21-22 budget. When the city council is allocating this money for next year, just like you said, now there's some policy guidance that, maintenance, clean maintenance of the mall, investment in street repair, and just, tree and maintenance throughout the city, I think are high priorities of the community. So I think that came across very loud and clear through the comments in the town hall. So I think it was a really useful exercise. I got a lot out of it. So and it was really great. Go ahead.
No, I'm just gonna comment on that. From what I understand from you and from Public Works, a lot of the street repair, et cetera, also comes down to the bottleneck of our personnel, and just us having the bandwidth to be able to undertake these projects.
Sure.
And I think there is a conversation for us to have, especially with all the personnel changes that we're going through, for us to take a really good look at Public Works Department, because people want the streets repaved, and they want these things going. And if it's because you don't have enough people, I think City Council needs to know that, and for us to give you policy guidance as far as personnel as well.
Yeah, definitely. And just to add a little flavor to that, we are going through this retirement incentive program. So we will have a few less bodies by the end of November. So actually what I've tasked all the department heads with is how can we work more efficiently? How can we do things a little bit different than we have been doing? And Matt Baumgartner, and the Public Works Director, has been really looking at, in the past few years, we've sort of operated our divisions, our facilities division and our streets and trees division, in our electrical division, and equipment maintenance. They've all kind of worked in silos. So if you are a maintenance worker in facilities, you only are dedicated to facilities. But we're really going to start looking at how we manage those resources, and so that, you know, our maintenance crew is not dedicated to necessarily just one division. We're going to be able to reassign them to where we need the most sort of boots on the ground. And that's really what we're going to have to do, I think, going forward. So a lot of this will come up, and we'll definitely be proposing plans as part of the budget on, or not plans, but let city council know how we plan to address from a staffing perspective some of these items that really have come up as being.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. I mean, when we made these changes to the budget, it was a very scary time. And was stated earlier, we made conservative estimates because we were trying to be good stewards. But if it's much better than it seems, which is something that I've always kind of kept as an optimist close to heart, it's always a little bit better than what it seems. I think the community is definitely speaking loud and clear that we need to put these funds into the mall, into the streets, and so forth. So that's all I'm just trying to say. So thank you for that, and I'll defer my time. Thank you, Mayor.
Appreciate that. And just real quick, I do want to also just for 2021, one of your final questions, Vice Mayor, was how we're using the Measure A funds in this current year. Really, this year we're focusing on the response and recovery, and that's how we're really covering. Although we ended last year better than expected, I really do expect, especially because it's been a prolonged response, we're still, I see us continuing to have some sort of response costs all the way through March, and maybe through the rest of this fiscal year. So really,
we might have them indefinitely. Our budget might be changed forever. You know, people need PPE at City Hall, so it might be changed forever.
Agreed. So that's so we're expecting some of that good, what we came in good last year, we might need to use throughout the rest of this year. But I do think we'll be set up really well in fiscal year 21-22 for City Council to make some of those good policy decisions on how to invest that money going forward.
Thank you. Councilmember Bellin.
Well, I'm glad things looked pretty good, and I did tune in to the town hall. I thought it was excellent. Everyone involved did an outstanding job. I really appreciated Diego, Nick. It took a lot of teamwork, and I'm not as optimistic as Mr. Pacheco. I think that the next quarter is not going to look so good. We've had the businesses were closed, and we're really not sure what it's going to look like. I think we've made some very good decisions as a city council, and we're good stewards of the residents' dollars, tax dollars. I'm very hopeful that things look good, but I just don't see it. I'm not seeing it in the next quarter at all. If it happens, that'll be great. I was sharing with someone today, what really troubles me is how many children are not going to have Christmas this year. That concerns me. So anyway, thanks for pulling the item. I'm glad I had the opportunity to say that I'm not as optimistic. However, we have a great team, and they know how to make it as painless as possible for the employees, for the residents, and the business owners. But there's a lot of business owners right now suffering. A restaurant, you can only have outside dining, and what is it, like 120 degrees? So I feel really bad for them. It's a wonderful idea. It's a wonderful concept, and I'd actually would like to bring it back at a later date so we can continue to do this. This really works. It's really nice when you're out there in the evening dining, but that's another discussion. Anyway, those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Mendoza.
Thank you. This was actually one of the item I wanted to pull because I wanted to, get feedback from Mr. Kimball on how the how the town hall went. I'm a strong supporter of the town hall, and I'm glad that we had 30 participants. I'm glad that I wrote down how many comments did you have? 65 comments, and you were able to respond to those that submitted their comments or had questions on Facebook or whatever method was used. But I'm just glad that, it's important for the community to know what's going on. This is a way of doing it and making it available. And, even if we're doing it virtually, I think that was a good amount of people that participated. We need to continue that. Hopefully we can have more town halls and have people chime in on whatever topics we might have. And not just Measure A. We need to get their input, and they are providing it for us and giving us guidance on what their needs are, and so we can act on them. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you. I am going to be a counterbalance on Councilmember Ballin's pessimism. I think that even though there might be potentially lower sales revenues to come in, given the fact that we do have a number of early retirements at City Hall, that will place us in a position to once again balance our budget, if not to have a small, potentially a small surplus. That is yet to be determined, but I know that over these last years, we have made all of the right fiscal decisions, and I am confident that we will continue to do so in the future. With regards to the many businesses that are facing challenges, I am proud of the fact that we've responded to each one individually that has reached out to us, but I really feel that in order for us to properly handle this crisis, we also need to be proactive and to reach out to the businesses who haven't necessarily reached out to us, to connect them with the resources that they're looking for, the information. I think that having tabs on the needs of each business and being able to assist them on a one-on-one level, yes, it will come at a cost, but with the surplus that we have from this past fiscal year, I think it would be a worthy cause to ensure that every business in the city has an opportunity to thrive, even in the most challenging of circumstances. So, thank you to my colleagues for our deliberation and discussion of this. This item, I believe, was only to receive and file. Let me double check. And this was to receive and file, and therefore we will now move on to the next agenda item, number 9, discussion regarding COVID-19 response efforts and approval of proposed recommendations. I had also spoken with Mr. Kimball regarding how the city will handle Halloween this year, given that the county has had orders asking people not to trick or treat. Mr. Kimball, if you would like to lead us on this item.
Yeah, and actually I will turn it over to Deputy City Manager Tim Howe. He's going to go through a quick couple slides to update council on COVID-19 and go through some of the additional items requested.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. I'm going to share screen. All right, can you see the presentation? Oh.
Not yet. There we go.
All right, can you see the full screen image?
Yes.
All right. All right, so here are the latest numbers. These provide an update on cases, both countywide and in city of San Fernando. We're well over 250,000 cases countywide, 869 locally, and 18 deaths. We're currently operating under the September 4th update to the county health officer order. Just as a refresher, this aligned it with a revised state policy. That state policy supported some students, a small subset of students at schools being able to return for in-person instruction, small student cohorts for specialized services and care at schools starting back on last week. It also allowed barbershops and hair salons only to reopen indoor operations at a quarter of capacity. California's Blueprint for a Safer Economy is the new framework that the governor introduced last month. It simplifies and defines by color code risk levels at by county, and it uses two metrics to determine where counties fall within those four different color bands. The top one, widespread, being the greatest level of restriction, down to yellow, which would be the lowest level of restriction, and those correspond with diminishing data for new cases and a diminishing rate of positive tests. Currently, the majority of the counties in the state fall within the highest risk level, the widespread. As you can see here, the majority of the counties are in that widespread category. Particular counties of note that fall within the substantial category, and apologies if the colors don't come out super vividly here, so I'll just call some of these out. Santa Clara County, San Francisco County in the Bay Area, as well as Orange County and San Diego County in Southern California are examples of counties that have qualified into the third, or the substantial category, basically a step down from the highest category. In LA County, we're in the highest category, and how our data shakes out, we're actually meeting our target for the positivity rate by falling under the threshold that's required. However, the number above that, the case rate per 100,000, we're at an adjusted case rate of 8.1, and we need to be below 7 for at least 2 weeks to be able to qualify to move down into the lower category. City facilities, these remain unchanged since the last time we spoke. City Hall remains open Monday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays from 12 to 5:30 p.m. Las Palmas Park has been open over the last several days as a cooling center during heat events. We've created the outdoor services permit program, which allows a number of different uses to be able to operate outdoors, and the city has provided these businesses with assistance to be able to logistically move those operations outdoors. That began back in July. The street closures of San Fernando Road continue between Brand and Maclay for Saturday evenings through Sundays all day. The residential food distribution program, that's underway right now, applications being accepted, and that is allowing eligible households, and eligible households being San Fernando residents only, to receive basically grocery bags with groceries and various supplies at a value of approximately $250. This is what the application form looks like online. Statewide protections were enacted on August 31st, signed into law. That is AB 3088. which prohibits residential tenants from eviction for failure to pay rent due to COVID-19, for failure to pay rent between March 1st and August 31st. And then tenants experiencing current COVID-related hardships between September 1st and January 31st of next year would also be protected from evictions, provided that they continue to pay at least 25% of the rent due during this period. There's been testing that has been provided. We've coordinated with a number of agencies to provide this testing at Recreation Park. And an update on statistics. So the daily number of persons tested, this is county-wide information. This continues to show generally a diminishing trend. As you see, the 7-day averages have declined since the last time we reported this information. The total persons tested, that's your grand total over this time frame. And it's probably worthwhile to know, weren't sure how things were going to shake out during the Labor Day holiday and whether that might lead to a spike. It does seem to indicate after the Labor Day holiday that there was a slight uptick in the number of persons tested. However, the percent of tests that are positive continue to show a general trend downward. Last time we reported this information, the 7-day average was 4.1% testing positive, and the current number is actually down to 3%. Daily number of hospitalized patients continues to show a downward trend. Last time we reported this information, it was not, over 900 hospitalized patients, and currently that number is 765 on a 3-day average. In terms of the mortality rate, this chart continues to demonstrate the disparate nature of the death rates, and you continue to see, and you actually see a bit of an uptick in the disparity for impact to people of color, as well as folks living in greater levels of poverty. That concludes staff's presentation. I'm available to answer any questions, as is Nick. I know that there was questions regarding Halloween. I don't know if Nick wanted to take that, or I can.
Sure. I can just start out. I think it's worth going over just some of the general guidance. So the LA County did issue some guidance last week on Halloween. Just in general, there are a number of items that are definitely not permitted. There are a number of items that are not recommended, and then there are items that are recommended, that are permitted and recommended. So some of the not permitted items for Halloween are the Halloween gatherings, events, or parties with non-household members are not permitted, even if they are conducted outdoors. And then carnivals, festivals, live entertainment, and haunted house attractions are not allowed. Not recommended because it's hard to control community spread. Door-to-door trick-or-treating is not recommended because it can be very difficult to maintain proper social distancing on porches and at front doors, and ensure that everyone answering or coming to the door is appropriately masked to prevent disease spread, and because sharing food is risky. So that's the door-to-door is really not recommended. Trunk-or-treating, where children go from car to car instead of door to door to receive treats, is also not recommended, particularly when Halloween events, because it's difficult to avoid crowding and sharing of food. Some of the activities that are permitted and recommended include online parties and contests, car parades that comply with the public health guidance, similar to graduations earlier in the summer. A lot of those car parades for maybe judging costume contests or something to that effect. Halloween movie night drive-in theaters, Halloween themed meals at outdoor restaurants, holiday themed art installations, and dressing up homes, still decorating homes and yards are still all permitted and recommended ways to celebrate the Halloween holiday. So those are just sort of some of the how the county is looking at Halloween. And then I know another item of interest, especially leading up to the November election, are campaign activities. Often, one of the traditions in small cities like San Fernando is really getting to meet the candidates personally through door-to-door knocking and door-to-door conversations. Currently, that is not allowed. However, we have indications from the county that there may be guidance that will allow those activities under certain conditions. So as soon as we get that, hopefully this week, as soon as we get that, we will circulate that guidance as well. That kind of brings us up to date over the last 2 weeks, kind of what's gone on in the COVID-19 response efforts of the city. So staff's here to address any questions.
Thank you. Councilmember Ballin?
I'm wondering, I'm not sure if this is where it fits in or not, but actually because of COVID, it fits in everywhere. I'm very concerned about people that are leaving hit pieces. It hasn't happened yet, but it will happen. Hit pieces on candidates, and as well as stealing lawn signs. Do we have an ordinance? Is there anything we can do other than tell our friends to, Facebook them live, use your Ring app and post it that this is what they're doing? What do you recommend? Because having these strangers on your porch or having them come onto your yard, and maybe our kids are out there playing, I'm concerned. I'm concerned about it, and it's very unfair to the candidates, all the candidates who have put a lot of effort and time to put their campaign signs out, and they're being stolen, or having hit pieces placed on your porch. And so I'm just concerned about that. But like I said, so far there hasn't been a hit piece on the porch. I certainly am ready to capture all of that and post it. So help me, Nick, answer that question.
I think that you just answered it by really kind of making a plea to everybody to be civil and respect, all candidates and the effort that all the candidates put into this election, and really kind of their desire to serve the public. It's sort of a higher desire. I'm gonna sneeze. Hold on. Excuse me. Sorry.
Bless you.
Oh, sorry. I caught the fever, the campaign fever.
I think you got the campaign fever. Thank God you're in your office away from everybody.
Exactly. I'm completely isolated. So, but that being said, I mean, I think that that's really the message we want to spread is that, let's, first of all, we don't want anyone trespassing. We don't want there to be damage to property. We want to continue that, but also just the fact that these people all the candidates work hard, have a strong message, are really trying to do what's in the best interest of the city. So, putting out, negative campaign literature or stealing lawn signs, we just really want to have a civil atmosphere. And then, anyone that does see something, please feel free to contact either the city clerk's office if you have that information, or the police department if it's involves some sort of crime, or even code enforcement, and we can follow up on some of those items.
So is stealing a sign breaking the law? Is leaving literature on the especially hit pieces on your doorsteps or on your screen door, or even in your mailbox, is that a crime?
I see that the city attorney unmuted himself because he really wants to address this, so I'll let him go.
Good, I haven't heard from him all night.
It is a prosecutable crime to steal a lawn sign. With respect to hit pieces, I think the real issue is whether they follow the proper attribution in terms of who they are issued by and produced by. Those are all requirements of the Fair Political Practices Commission. As to whether or not you can put them in a mailbox, I think technically speaking, they are not allowed to be put in a mailbox, although that frequently happens. I think most of the time that's why you see them leave it at your doorstep or just sort of jam it in your door instead.
Okay, thank you, Richard.
Thank you. Does that conclude your questions, council member?
Well, it does conclude my questions, but I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission to catch people that are doing this. So I think it's time. It's time that they take responsibility for their actions. That's all. That concludes my statement.
Thank you. Although I do agree with you on that.
Well, not take responsibility, but are held accountable for their actions.
Well, now that it's confirmed that it's a prosecutable crime, I think that this is something that hopefully people will avoid doing. So anyone, whether it's this election or future elections, can get out his or her message without being interfered with. But it is an interesting idea that you brought forward. In any event, we are going on to the next council member to speak. Council Member Mendoza.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Ballin, for bringing that up. I was just wondering what if the chief can say anything towards it in terms of the stealing of signs and because these hit pieces are left at night, late at night, middle of the night, and all over our city that hurt people and are unnecessary. Unnecessary information that needs to go out, personal information about people, and those things are hurtful. What can the police department do?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Go ahead.
I want just to remind you too that since we're talking about it in the context of being COVID related, and since this was brought up, not the science per se, but elections as COVID, if we can just frame it in that context, let's try to stick within the parameters of the agenda item. I apologize for interrupting.
Mayor, you want me still to proceed on that, on answering that question?
Yes.
Okay. As far as the, just like Richard had indicated, the stealing of the signs is it is a crime. It's a theft and can be prosecuted. As far as the flyers or hit pieces, as people would call them, that will fall under what Richard had indicated. It's nothing that, as far as the police department can do, we can document it, and along with the code enforcement, we can, seize it if wherever it's laid to, whether it's on somebody's private property. If they do not wish it, they can give it to us or code enforcement, and we can forward it to the proper state authorities regarding those type of flyers or hit pieces if it does not fall under the state guidelines.
Thank you. And just following up on the Halloween, I didn't know if the Mall Association was planning anything for Halloween, Nick. Parade, is there something that's COVID allowable?
I have not heard anything, but the types of events that they have done in the past have been sort of quasi trick-or-treating, where they would hand out candy at each shop, encouraging people to come in, and then they've had trunk or treats in the past. Both of those are not recommended by the county as activities. But I have not heard whether or not they. I think we're meeting with them later this week. I haven't heard if they plan anything at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Yeah, Tim, if you could touch briefly again upon the parks update, what parks are open and which parks are still closed, and what our plan is going forward with parks. or Nick, Tim or Nick? Yes, either.
Currently, all parks remain closed to the public.
Okay, so is this council direction? Is this you, Nick, or what's the I guess the premise behind the parks right now currently?
Sure. So as far as our the park facilities, there isn't a whole lot of activity that we can do there since we can't have programs. We can't have customer, we can't have any gatherings. So none of the programs can be run through the city. In many of the daycare, there are some daycare activities that are allowed, but the level of the level of oversight that you need for each one of those to comply with COVID-19 is pretty difficult. And we don't typically provide daycare anyway, other than day camp, which we don't do once school started. What we're kind of looking at, and I know what is really trying to utilize park facilities, the outdoor spaces to like our tennis courts and our basketball courts, to allow any businesses that want to reserve those to provide outdoor fitness classes or dance classes, things like that. So we're working on a program to open them up.
But no basketball?
There's no, because you can't play competitive sports right now. That's still not allowed under the order. You can have skill building. So, you can field ground balls, but you can't have competitive sports.
Well, what about like all the parks that have tennis courts open, like El Carrizo? Tennis is competitive.
Tennis is allowed. There are a few that are allowed. Tennis is allowed. Basketball is not allowed. Soccer is not allowed. Baseball is not allowed. Any of those contact sports.
What about like our playgrounds and tot lots? Do they still have a bunch of like caution tape and such? Are they still closed in that regard, or are they open now?
Those are still closed. They're still not allowed out. Those tot lots are still have to be closed by county order. Playgrounds are still closed by county order. So
Heritage Park walking trail.
So that one we could open. Really, quite frankly, we've just had because we've had a number of issues with compliance by residents on the parks that are open. We on a weekly basis, we're basically fixing since the tot lots are closed, we do have fencing around it. However, residents continue to break into those areas and use the tot lots. So we're focusing a lot of resources on trying to maintain the county order in the parks that are open. So we decided to close 8th Street Park and in Heritage Park, except for by reservation. So those have been closed because we do have to focus resources on people that are not complying. We've had a number of baseball leagues that have tried to, without our permission, just sort of start playing games. So because
they're at it at El Carrizo. I mean, they were playing with the highway dividers are in the baseball diamond.
Yeah.
But the teams are still there playing baseball like around it.
Yeah.
So, like, what's the point? I mean.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think unless again.
And for me, like it's at some point, we have to be consistent. We have a swap meet that has thousands of people every couple of days, where we can't have Heritage Park where people are walking and getting like fresh air and exercise, which is so important. Like to me, it just doesn't make sense that we have like these inconsistent policies when it comes to people, being outdoors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, we're implementing the county policies, so I don't disagree. There are inconsistencies. We could definitely reopen 8th Street Park and Heritage Park. Just open the gates every day like we had in the past. Again, the only reason we closed them was because we were pulling resources because we were having trouble just enforcing on those parks that were open. But I don't have a problem, administratively opening. There wasn't a reason that those other parks were closed, other than we just didn't have the resources to be able to enforce anything that might be going on at that, as well as the non-compliance in the other parks. So I
Okay,
don't.
well, I mean, I'll leave that there for deliberation then, because I think that these two parks should be open. I mean, they're not parks that people have big parties at. These are like, walk your dog type parks. And so if people have the option of walking in a street that's full of traffic or walking in one of our nice parks, I think, a lot of trails are open, so I really don't see too much inconsistency with that. So I guess I'll just leave it there for deliberation. And secondly, as far as like Halloween and Dia de los Muertos, I think it would be pretty neat to do a parade or something like that. I don't unfortunately have like the organization capacity to plan something like that, but even kind of like pinning some recuerdos to like a fence at Lane Park, or just putting up your little Dia de los Muertos mask, I think could be neat. So just having some kind of like sense of normalcy during this time. Kids can't go trick-or-treating, kids can't go trunk or whatever you're calling it by going by car, etc. But I would definitely urge people to consider, hey, let's take out a parade permit or whatever it is. You said parades are allowed during Halloween time or car such,
Car parades, yeah.
Car parades. I mean, let's think about that. I think let's throw some ideas out there that people in the community can hear us. These are okay to do. So car parades, I think maybe designating an area at a park like Lane Park for like, some recuerdos or something like that, I think would be neat. So, besides those two issues in terms of consistency with our parks, I would really like to see those open, and I would love to hear more about how to do that. And, maybe trying to find a way to celebrate, Halloween and Dia de los Muertos in an unconventional, a way. So besides that, those are pretty much my comments around this agenda item number 9.
Thank you. I have nothing else to add. Councilmember Mendoza, I see that your highlighter is up. You're on mute though.
Ay. Does Julian have anything to add to this? Anything that you guys are doing, Julian, from the parks? Virtually?
Yes, we are actually doing the virtual Dia de los Muertos festival that would include a build an altar or ofrenda at your home. We are asking the residents to send in pictures of their altars that we will publicize on our website. We are having a virtual 5K run that's spread over 10 days and letting the participants run at their leisure. They don't have to run the full 5K on one day. They could, space it out. That way, hopefully we'll get more participants that could run, maybe a few blocks one day, a few blocks another until they complete their 5K. We also having a part of this is the film festival that is being co-sponsored by the community theater program that we're asking people to submit films, a 3-minute, 12-second film revolving around the Dia de los Muertos theme. And we're also going to have a somewhat of a scavenger hunt that kids could sign up for and then go to different locations that the family go out and look for clues and solve a mission. So all these activities are virtual and they could do it during the festival. The festival itself will be 3 days, October 31st through November 2nd, but each activity within the festival will have different time frames. The longest will be the 5K. They have approximately 10 days to finish 5Ks. And then the other ones will be, the film festival is actually going on now. They'll have until October the 16th to submit their entries. They would be judged. And then the top 2 films in each category will be judged. Be screened, and 1 overall best film would be screened. So a total of 9 films would be screened for the Dia de los Muertos festival.
Thank you. That's really good to hear that we're doing something for our kids. We need
Yes.
to keep them busy and occupied.
Yes.
That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. I have no questions or comments. Mr. Kimball, what direction do you feel that, I believe that the agenda item asks for a motion. Let me go back to this. I could be wrong on that. It does say approval of proposed recommendations. So at this point, are you looking for a city council motion to approve staff recommendations? Are you looking for general feedback?
No, general feedback is fine. I think, I think the loudest, the sort of one piece of direction that we got, and it's an administrative item, so I can do it administratively, but was related to reopening Heritage Park and 8th Street Park to the public. Unless the council has any of the council members, specifically for walking and other things, but unless any of the council members have any, wouldn't like us to do that, we can go ahead and reopen that, plan to reopen that, for this weekend, unless there's some objection. So if there's no objection, then we can just do that administratively, but no directions needed, or no motion is needed.
I'm one of my colleagues, but I do have blue feelings on it. I can say that during this pandemic, I have had the benefit of taking my daughter to a number of different parks throughout the county. And of course, play areas are not open, understandably. But there are nice areas where, you can sit on the grass, you can walk around. And so the parks don't necessarily have to be conducive to close contact. And I think that Heritage Park, probably more so than most parks, does not lend itself really to people having, significantly close contact. It is more of a walking park, so to speak. But I see that Councilmember Mendoza had her hand up, and I think that Councilmember Ballin did too. Councilmember Mendoza, if you'd like to start.
Yeah, just maybe in 2 weeks, you can report back after if you do open them up, that you report back to see what's transpired. Was it safe? Are they practicing social distancing and wearing their mask while they're at the park? Heritage Park is small, so it's easy to cross paths constantly if you are walking within the 6 feet. You are taking walks there. I know there's problems sometimes in the back area of the corner of the park, but maybe reporting back to us on what transpires in the next 2 weeks would be good. Report back. Thank you.
Councilmember Ballin.
I just have a question, Nick. Are the restrooms going to be open at Heritage Park?
We'll have to, we may order a portable restroom for that area if we open them. I'll have to talk to staff about that.
Yeah, I don't see the value in opening it up if there's not a restroom available. What are the kids going to do when they have to go? They have to go. What are the seniors going to do when they have to go? They have to go. And we don't have a restroom or a way to wash hands. So it concerns me if we're not going to give full service to a park. It just doesn't make sense to me.
And Mr. Kimball, I guess what plan would you have though? I'm glad you brought up the restrooms. I hadn't thought of that. To make sure that restrooms are desanitized on a frequent basis if they are reopened, so that the risk of any transmission is diminished.
Yeah, so that's why I need to sort of talk to staff to see if what would be more cost effective. So right now we have our cleaning company come in wash the restrooms at Las Palmas, for example, twice a day. We would probably need to extend that to either Heritage Park, either do that and see if we can get them to come out and also service that park twice a day, or look at a porta potty that is serviced more often. But that will have to be part of the plan. 8th Street Park does not currently have a bathroom facility, so I don't think we need to worry about it. We don't have that same concern there, but and I was reminded that it's actually Rudy Ortega Senior Park that we're referring to as Heritage Park. But so we'll that'll be part of the reopening plan. We'll have to do with the bathrooms.
Okay. Well, at the very least, it sounds as though there's a direction to hear more. to try and potentially get these reopened. So if you can come back to us at the next meeting with more details, that would be great.
Sure.
Thank you. And we have received and filed this and given feedback. Item number 10 has already been discussed. I will have to leave early today, so I will skip to item number 13 before I leave today's meeting. And this is a item that I had previously agendized. It's a discussion on possible direction related to a whistleblower and alleged employee misconduct reporting procedures. I had a bit more of an opportunity to speak to Mr. Padilla about this, and I explained the reasoning for bringing this forward. And it is essentially to give employees an outlet to express concern over certain conduct if they fear retaliation in the workplace for doing so. This is something that has been brought up to me by various different employees over the years, not just recently. I would probably say at least the last couple of years. And in speaking to Mr. Padilla, he indicated that while there might be a good solution to this, he would want to at least vet other models of what other municipalities might have done, since we might not be the first to consider this. So today, I'm not looking for us to pass any type of new policy. I am simply asking the council to authorize Mr. Padilla to research this and to bring forward possible recommendations related to this item, if not the ability to potentially even adopt another ordinance that another city or jurisdiction has already had in place. And so, Mr. Padilla, before I go to my colleagues on the council, do you have anything to add, or did I misconstrue any of your or any of our discussion?
No, you pointed out some of the concerns that I have in terms of wanting to study the issue a little bit more. The only thing I would expand on, as you and I discussed, was that whenever you're talking about policies like this, there is an interplay with existing policies that relate to, workplace grievances and how to proceed with them. So we would just want to make sure that anything that would be considered by the council doesn't work at cross purposes with,
Right.
either existing policy or state law.
I understand. Thank you for that. And Councilmember Ballin? You're on mute.
Glad you didn't hear that then. Okay. In light of everything that's going on in the world today, especially the United States, I think a whistleblower policy is critical. It's time. It's time for change, and I think we need a strong policy. I don't think that I don't support the whistleblower going to any city managers, management, department heads, what have you. I think there has to be a different medium, correct, that does the intake. So that's something that has to be considered. And Richard, you have a lot of work ahead of you.
We don't make your job easy here.
But I do have some recommendations for you, Richard. Metropolitan has taken up this issue. So I will put you in contact with the ethics officer.
Very good.
Okay.
Wonderful. Councilmember Mendoza?
I have no questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, same. I mean, interested to see the details of what they do in other places. I really hope it's not too widespread a problem that we have so many employees seeking, outlet for grievances, because I would hope that we have a somewhat robust infrastructure for that. But, reform sometimes is necessary in order to make city government more responsive, more effective, and a better place to work, because city employees are integral to the city running well. And we want to be a good employer as well as, a good steward of tax dollars. So interested to hear more. I think in abstract, labor rights and workplace issues are important, and we should take them seriously. So.
Thank you. And I did express to Mr. Padilla that my initial concept had been that someone would have, or not someone, but an employee would be able to give the intake to an independent third party so that there isn't retaliation. And that's one of the underlying premises of what I want to research, whether we can allow this. And again, I'm interested in learning more. I'm sure that, again, we're not the first city to do this. And I'm interested in seeing what wisdom is out there. And so, Mr. Padilla, it does not strike me as the need to take a formal motion since there is already general direction. Do you concur, or did you need a motion?
No, I don't need a motion, although I would, given that we're kind of getting close to an election, just want to get a sense of how soon you would want something back from us, given the schedule in the next couple of weeks.
I would hope at your next availability, and I don't know what that is. Maybe it's not 2 weeks, maybe it's 3 weeks or 4 weeks, but
well,
I leave it up to you because I don't want this to be perceived as an election issue, as it's not. But I also want to make sure, and I also want to make sure that you have the right amount of time to get correct answers as opposed to guesstimates.
Yeah, with that in mind, I think if we could be allowed to come back perhaps no earlier than the second meeting in October, that should give us a little bit of time to survey the legal landscape and come back with some preliminary suggestions or observations for you.
Understood. And just to clarify, you do not need a motion. The general direction is sufficient, correct?
So yes, the direction is sufficient. Thank you.
Thank you. And so I will leave my colleagues with items 11 and 12. I did quickly want to say for my council comments that I would like for us to adjourn in memory of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. It is an absolute tragedy, her passing. She has been a legend in United States history, a legal pioneer, and an altogether patriotic and great American. And this country will never be the same without her. I simply hope that we as a nation can stand together to do the right thing and to fulfill her dying wishes too. And the city is placing the flag at half-staff for at the very least the next week. And so with that said, I will be leaving for the rest of the meeting, and I thank you all, and I will see you in 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe that takes us to item number 11 then, consideration to determine a city position on the 2020 League of California Cities. Staff, if you want to lead us off on this one, please.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. This is annually the League of California Cities at their annual league conference holds a board meeting, and typically they vote on 1 or 2 resolutions that are brought to the to the league to take a position on with regards to usually they're sort of relevant issues that the League of California Cities would take a position on. So this year, and you may remember that this body appointed Councilmember Mendoza to be the voting delegate on this item, and Councilmember Gonzalez to be the alternate voting delegate. So basically, this is providing feedback to the voting delegate on how to vote on the issue. This year, the particular resolution that's being voted on is related to is requesting that the federal communication, that Congress amend the Federal Communication Decency Act of 1996 to limit the immunity to online platforms where their forums enable criminal activity to be promoted. So for example, it's very, very specific to, if there is, similar to you can't go into a crowded, a crowded movie theater and yell fire. There's sort of be extending that that prohibition of criminal activity on social media platforms. So that's what this resolution would be, is just urging Congress to take that immunity away so that law enforcement does have the ability to use social media, people that post certain criminal activity on their social media, law enforcement can use that as part of their investigation into certain crimes. So with that, I'll turn it over to council for discussion or in recommendation on how the voting member votes at the annual conference on October 7th through 9th.
Okay, let's, I'll hold my comments to the end. Let's start with Ms. Mendoza, if you will.
I was going to ask to wait. I wanted to hear what you all had to say first. And then, but I would like to, Mr. Padilla to maybe chime in on this and see what his thoughts on it are.
Mhm.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Padilla.
I'm sorry, I missed the question.
Unless Ms. Bellin, you would like to comment first, either way.
My comment is that I move the item and I support the League of Cities recommendation.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Mr. Padilla, go ahead.
And I apologize, I think I missed the question. What are you seeking information on, or you want an
Well,
opinion on?
because this is my first time, right? I'm going to do this, but I just wanted to understand here what it is that we're, a better understanding of what we're voting on.
Let me, sorry, I have to.
Sorry,
call up-
I didn't.
Let me see here. You know, if I could have a minute to just open up the agenda item really quick. I somehow lost my agenda here. Hang on just a second.
Yeah, no problem. And I had read it as the social media platform like Facebook or Snapchat could be held with some kind of liability. But Nick, you're saying it's actually about like search and seizure type like searches against criminal suspects?
Yeah. So I think so. The idea is that the social media platforms would have some sort of responsibility to sort of take down posts that are encouraging criminal activity. And also, I think right now it's you know, they have some sort of some immunity as far as turning that information over to law enforcement. So I think the request by the League of California Cities is to amend the Communications Decency Act to make it easier for or to require basically online platforms. You are correct, Vice Mayor, where the online platform would need to establish programs to take down sort of content that solicits criminal activity, like, you know, go loot Best Buy, you know, at 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon or something, you know, posts to that nature. So if there's some sort of willful failure, you're right, it would be the opportunity to hold the social media platform responsible.
Okay, so it's not necessarily like asking them to turn over people's social media accounts then, or posts and things like that. It's just more so about they have a duty now to take them down if they're inciting criminal activity.
Yes, and to provide the information to law enforcement when there is, you know, those when there are those posts that incite criminal activity. So it would kind of be twofold: one, take down that information, and two, provide it to law enforcement for follow-up. And just to kind of, I mean, to kind of get a summary of it, if you look on page 153 of the agenda packet, I think the three items that they're asked that the league has in their resolution are sort of laid out there. So number one is,
here we go.
Yeah, online platforms must establish and implement a reasonable program to identify and take down content which solicits criminal activity. Number two, online platforms must provide to law enforcement that information that will assist the identification and apprehension of persons who use the service of the platform to solicit and engage in criminal activity. And then the third is that an online platform that willingly or negligently fails to either of these duties is not immune from enforcement of state and local laws which impose criminal or civil liability for such failure. So those are the three actions that this resolution requests on behalf of the League of California Cities.
Okay, Mr. Padilla, when you're ready, if you want to go ahead and address.
Yeah, I mean, I have to confess, I'm not very familiar with the full substance of this particular piece of legislation being promoted by the League of Cities, but just looking at it very cursorily, as Mr. Kimball said, I mean, it seems to be an attempt to give more teeth to authorities to deal with folks who post, who solicit criminal activities online through social media. I think, I would imagine that a lot of this is geared towards folks who do, who incite harm against particular people, your classic sort of internet or Twitter troll who responds, to a comment by threatening somebody's life or encouraging others to threaten somebody's life, or a president who gives out, a reporter's personal address and tells his supporters to call them to express disapproval. It seems like this is what this is aimed at addressing, and the league looks like it's just simply looking for support for that legislation.
There are several letters of support, so I'm good with the responses. Thank you.
Okay, my only comments then would probably be centered on the second prong. I'm sorry, as I go back and forth, I'm not sure whether my video cuts in and out, but I am in 100% agreement that social media platforms need some sorts of regulation. I think it's been clear, probably since even before the 2016 election, that social media can be manipulated, it can be hacked, it can be used for disinformation and propaganda. It can be used to deceive people. And I think we've seen recent hearings on Capitol Hill address a lot of these concerns with Mark Zuckerberg, CEO of Facebook, Evan Spiegel, CEO of Snapchat, and so many others. So I do believe that especially the free speech protections that social media platforms claim as far as their immunities will probably be addressed within the near future, at the very least within our lifetimes, because it is a critical way that people consume information now. Unfortunately, to this day, they're still being manipulated. Almost for kicks, once a week, I check in to see what the top 10 trending Facebook stories are. And inevitably, there are a couple that are quote unquote fake news, something that actually didn't happen, or a video that was doctored, or some kind of propaganda that misleads people. And so I think that this is an area that our policymakers absolutely need to address. However, from a privacy perspective, I am not in agreement that law enforcement should necessarily have a certain right to people's social media accounts. Richard, if you could look at two, just briefly, even in the cursory aspects, would this ask, so to speak, or this prong, number two, be above and beyond what a normal lawful subpoena or warrant would have to uncover? I'm curious as to why an online platform that might be subject to a subpoena or a document request for more information on a criminal suspect might not otherwise be compelled to turn that over. Are you familiar at all with that kind of mechanism? I know it's a very specific kind of response really to law enforcement requests and so forth,
Right.
but I think that's an important one.
That has been, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're okay.
Yeah, that has been the tension, I think, well documented in the press between the intent or the desire of these social media platforms to preserve people's privacy, yet at the same time working with law enforcement to make sure that their platforms aren't used for criminal activity. It's my understanding that, traditionally law enforcement would need to get a subpoena in order to, access the identity of people, certain individuals who post things online. And how difficult it is to get that on a case-by-case basis, I couldn't honestly tell you, but this prong would appear to support some sort of process where these companies would be more compelled to produce that information as opposed to forcing law enforcement or law enforcement authorities to go through the hoops of a criminal subpoena, which may be very difficult to get.
Okay, well, for what it's worth then, Ms. Mendoza, there's 3 of us here. We've heard the other council members remark on what they support. You're the voting delegate, you're gonna have to decide what to support. But as far as me, you can mark me down as supportive of 1 and 3 and not supportive of number 2. But if you have any more comments you would like to make, Ms. Mendoza or Ms. Ballin, or anybody on staff, please feel free to go ahead and raise your hand or just jump in.
Yeah,
Go ahead, yeah.
I guess if someone commits a crime at your home, they need a warrant to go, to go and check, right? If you have, who committed a crime, they need a warrant to go to their house to see. So they've committed a crime and it's online, then you need a warrant to obtain that information, right? Just like anything else, right? Is that
Correct.
something similar to that? They
Correct.
still they do subpoenas or they do warrants, right? Or a search warrant or whatever.
Right. And
Yeah, I think that was
Right,
kind of
and,
like what we were trying to
Yeah.
get to, right? How is this might be special or different from that normal process?
Yeah. So, yeah, so I'm fine. I'm fine with it. Thank you. So what do we need to do?
I guess our request is to provide direction to you, the voting delegate, regarding our position. So when you go to vote, I guess you have our considerations with you now.
Well,
And
Actually, I second the motion from Councilmember Bell. She
sure,
Yeah.
yeah, we have to move. I think we have to move the item anyway. So okay, great. Let's go ahead and have a roll call then. I believe is that our next step here, Mr. Kimball? Is Julia still with us, or is this?
Yeah, she's
something that
here.
Okay,
I'm
great.
here. Okay, starting with Councilmember Mendoza,
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
He's gone.
Oh, he's gone. Okay, that's right. Councilmember Ballin,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Pacheco.
And I'm a no.
You're a no.
So the item still the item moves in 2-1. So moving on to number 12. Oh, please. Mr.
I'm
Padilla?
sorry, this is item number 11, consideration to determine the city position of leading city. Okay. Okay, so this is not a resolution.
Not
being
adopting a
approved by-
resolution.
Oh, it is just
Okay.
provide direction then.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Oh,
we're good.
okay. That's what I was asking, if we needed a roll call vote or not. Okay. Well, there you are, Ms. Mendoza. You have everybody's sentiments with you for the upcoming vote. I believe it's October 6th. Was that
Yeah, 6 or
October
7.
6th? Okay, excellent. All right, item number 12, consideration to approve a request from the Kidneys Quest Foundation, the use of the city seal for its emergency education backpack distribution program. This item was placed on the agenda by Councilmember Mendoza, and the recommendation is that the city council approve the use of the seal printed on backpacks for the Kidney Quest's backpack distribution program. So please, Ms. Mendoza, if you'd like to introduce us to the item.
Yes. Carolyn Urquidez from the Kidney Quest Foundation had requested funds from the city, and Council Member Ballin and I contributed to her foundation. And so they will be providing emergency backpack relief program. It's an emergency backpack relief program which targets individuals with chronic kidney disease, unaware of the importance of having an emergency plan. The emergency backpack is suited for individual needs of the patient to survive a crisis and an emergency or a natural disaster. Patients learn steps they need to take in the type of materials they need for emergencies depending on the individual renal diet, health requirements, and conditions. So I move to approve. Can I say I move to approve the item?
You can move the agenda
Sure.
item.
I move the, I
Sure,
move
yeah, you
the
can.
agenda item.
Yeah.
Okay, great, Ms. Ballin.
Yes, I'm really honored that Carolyn asked for our this request to have city seal on the backpacks. They're very critical. We don't think about what patients going through dialysis are going through, and I'm sure that they and their families may not even realize that how necessary that emergency backpack is. So when they sent when she sent the request out to City Council asking for some community funds, I was a quick yes. I have a lot of compassion for everything these kidney dialysis patients and the families are going through. And I second your motion. So we know that it's going to happen because there's 3 of us and 2 yeses. So anyway.
There you go. Love the
Okay,
dynamic.
it's all yours.
No, we'll have a unanimous one on this. I think it's a great cause. I have an uncle that's going through dialysis. You're absolutely right. It is really tried. Honestly, just like a lot of medical conditions are, it can be very difficult for the families and the individuals impacted by it. So I'm happy to support this as well. Is this a recommendation to approve? So is this a roll call, Mr. Kimball?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, Ms. Fritz, if you'd like to take it away.
Yes, Councilmember Mendoza.
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez is absent. Councilmember Ballin,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Pacheco,
Yes.
and Mayor Fajardo is absent.
Okay, the motion carries. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that moves us to staff communication, including commission updates.
Yes, I'll start. The chief, I think, is about to drop off, and he let me know he has no staff comments for tonight. So Mr. Venegas, if you're still on, do you have any staff comments tonight? I saw him unmute for a second. I think he said no. Oh no, he's talking. You're on mute. That should be the motto for 2020. You're on mute.
That's a good one.
Am I on now?
No, you're
Okay.
on. Yeah.
Just basically letting you know that at the end of the month, we are going to do, the end of October, we are going to do the virtual Dia de los Muertos Festival. We're going to have promoting all the programs I mentioned earlier. And we promise to try to engage the community virtually as much as possible. And our senior programming, there are virtual, and we're getting a lot of feedback from the people that do participate. One key thing is trying to educate them in how to use the computer, how to use the social platforms. So we do have seminars about that at least once a month, so seniors could learn how to use the computer and how to engage in our community, in our programming. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Julian. Tim, do you have anything from the Community Development Department?
Yes, just one item. Last week, I toured a very exciting new business that's opening very, very soon in the city, and that is San Fernando's second Starbucks coffee location at 12980 Foothill Boulevard. We're really excited to see that come online. And staff is going to be working with Starbucks to try to organize a properly social distanced grand opening.
Thank you. Ms. Fritz, anything on the city clerk?
Yes, and I wanted to, and I believe Mr. Kimball, you sent a email picture of the new voting box that we have in front of City Hall. So I wanted to make you aware that that has been installed. It looks beautiful. And the second box has already been installed as well at the location. Let me see here.
Pioneer Park.
Pioneer Park, that's correct. And I'm still waiting for the county elections office to provide a total number of vote centers that will be located in the city of San Fernando. The total number of vote centers is, and the locations. They're still working on finalizing that. So that should be coming by next council meeting, of course. And that is it.
Thank you. And Chief Byro actually does have something to add, so he asked me to come back to him. Chief?
Yes, thank you. Just for information, we are conducting another DOI checkpoint this Friday night, and also today and throughout the rest of the week, we'll be conducting some additional traffic enforcement. Just so everybody's aware that our officers conducted quite a few traffic enforcement off of 4th Street and 5th Street between Maclay and Hubbard, and wrote probably about 20 traffic violation tickets for failure to stop for stop signs. We had a few interesting comments from a few of the persons that were stopped and cited, and they actually happened to be local residents. And they actually understood, and they appreciate what we were doing, and understand that we're here to enforce the law and traffic enforcement for the safety of the community. And even though they were apprehended themselves and they were kind of part of the problem as well, they completely understood. They were upset that other people were committing the violation. And then when they actually were caught doing it themselves, they took a step back and realized, okay, things do happen. But they appreciated the enforcement, because they understand the safety of the community is very, very important. So we'll be conducting these enforcement details throughout the city, throughout this fiscal year, with the help of OTS grant that we have left over from the last fiscal year, and the new one that we started in October as well. So our objective is obviously number one, safety for our community. So I just want to give you a little bit of an update on that. And next month, probably the second council meeting, will give you a update on our crime statistics and traffic enforcement in general, give you all up to speed on what the activity's been like for this past year or so in the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And I just have a few quick items. First, I want to apologize for some of the technology snafus earlier this meeting. I think the city clerk and I will have to attend the computer classes put on by the recreation department later this week. So we'll sort through that. We will have, as Diego, the finance director, mentioned earlier this meeting on October 19th, we have a planned update of the 2019-2020 preliminary financials. We sort of promised that during the that effort during the budget process this year, because it was so truncated. Typically, we'd have kind of a mid-year process. Would be the first time that we would talk about the prior year's financial, how we ended the year, and that's usually in February or so. But this year, because of our truncated budget process and COVID-19, we will be doing that a preliminary look into our finances in October. So we'll have more detail on exactly why we ended where we ended. And then I also wanted to bring a very timely item, and Council Member Gonzalez asked me to mention this for his Metro Service Council. The Metro will be providing an update on the EIR for the light rail that will be made available at the end of September through October. We also will be getting a presentation from Metro on October 19th. Because of that, I'm actually going to be probably this week putting together the light rail ad hoc, the East San Fernando Valley Light Rail ad hoc. I believe that's you, Vice Mayor, and
Great. Yeah.
A number of critical items that we need to discuss, and we'll also probably be putting together. He also requested a tree ad hoc, so we'll be putting those together probably this week. But we have some pressing and timely items coming up, especially related to Metro Light Rail in October. So that you'll see those items come forward. Other than that, I have no other staff comments, and we can go to the next item on the agenda.
Okay, thank you so much. General council comments. Ms. Mendoza.
I just want to share that this week I participated in the in a BizFed webinar, which was on housing, Los Angeles County Library Commission meeting, and the Los Angeles County telebriefing on coronavirus. So I had a bit of a busy week. Thank you.
Great, great, Ms. Ballin.
And all her other homework. Okay, I just have a quote from the notorious RGB. And this is in light of the town hall that Councilmember Mendoza and I will be on with Assembly Member Luz Rivas tomorrow. Women belong in all places where decisions are being made. It shouldn't be that women are the exception. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you. Spot on. For my own comments, just briefly, thank you to staff for the meeting, and thanks, Chief, to your efforts with the police department on the traffic stops. I know those areas do get a lot of traffic. There's even some parts of those streets that don't have sidewalks, so pedestrians have to walk into the street to cross by. So I'm sure I can kind of visualize how people, even though they might get quote unquote caught, they do understand what we're out there trying to do. So thank you for that. Secondly, I met with my education commissioner and Tim about what the Education Commission could try to achieve with Tesla. If you'll remember, in our line of questioning during Tesla's presentation, we were kind of poking around as to how Tesla gets involved in the communities where they do business. And we are very interested in their philanthropy and their pipelines to science and math work, and really a lot of good paying jobs and careers. And so we are very much excited to try to find ways to collaborate and maybe help educational access here in San Fernando. Secondly, we also spoke briefly, I spoke briefly with Tim about some grant programs through SCAG. And so my understanding is that San Fernando has actually been successful with some grant programs through SCAG before. I believe the parking permit study was mentioned as something that was successfully accomplished through SCAG. And now with this new version of Connect SoCal that we all voted on and submitted forward, there are various opportunities for the city of San Fernando on quick build projects, on various other things that make great strides towards more walkability, more pedestrian friendly areas, more bike friendly areas, and so forth. And so staff and I, and we'll send the invites around, whoever else wants to join, will be very closely participating in the application meetings, figuring out what types of projects San Fernando might be good participants and applicants for, and then trying to go after them and get them. I think that we have a great track record, especially recently, and I'm very confident that we can, get some more investment dollars here to make the city a little bit more pedestrian friendly, a little greener, and so forth. Finally, I do want to end on some comments about Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. As a lawyer, in my early days in law school, you very much are thrown into the fire, so to speak, as to how the law works and how law is enforced and interpreted, and how the Constitution creates these checks and balances for the betterment of our society. And I do want to pair these comments with our upcoming election. If you might be undecided, or some voters are out there wondering if whether to sit out this election or not, please know that a Supreme Court justice vacancy, like the one left by the late great Ms. Ginsburg, are very, very important. This individual could be serving for the next 20, 30, even 40 years, depending on how young they are, on the Supreme Court, making impactful decisions that affect everyday lives. And the next president, whether it's our sitting president or the opponent, Democrat Joe Biden, will be appointing the next, one or the other will be appointing to the vacancy. And this is something that, doesn't get a lot of attention in terms of an election, but it is a critical duty of a president to nominate somebody to fill a Supreme Court vacancy. And so her work and her reputation is unrivaled. I know I, along with many others, are deeply saddened by her loss. She just seemed like she could go on forever. She had so much strength and so much vigor. And most importantly, she was really a trailblazer in a lot of ways. And not just for women's rights, although importantly, she was incredible litigator and Supreme Court justice for equality, but also for really the average Joe, the little person, people that are just trying to live their everyday lives. And I can only hope that the next Supreme Court justice could, really recognize and empathize what it's like to be an average person just trying to make their way in this country. And so to Miss Ruth Bader Ginsburg, we will miss you tremendously. I will very much encourage everybody to really think about the type of, country we want going forward, the type of Supreme Court we want going forward, the type of executive we want going forward and for the next 4 years, because these decisions obviously have a lot of impact. And so I will leave it at that unless there are any other comments from anybody. I don't see any hands up. So otherwise, I believe we can move to adjourn if there's a second.
Second.
Great, Ms. Fritz.
Councilmember Mendoza. Councilmember Mendoza.
Yeah.
Councilmember Gonzalez is absent. Councilmember Ballin.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Pacheco.
Yes.
And Mayor Fajardo, and he is absent.
Okay, the motion carries. The meeting is adjourned at 9:40 p.m. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, see you guys tomorrow.